the co-conspirators who were trying to think. There was someone on Rachel Maddow who was talking. I think it was Mikey Sherrill,
Yes.
Senator Mikey Sherrill. She was.
Yep. Said she saw people giving a tour,
She saw people giving
which
tours
are
when they were supposed to
currently
be giving tours, and yeah,
right.
so they may have been doing reconnaissance for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right,
I'd
let's
like to
see.
see what that actually what
Okay.
became of that.
So, is there anybody who might be on? Play with the mic volume a little bit. It doesn't appear anybody is there. That's fine. Copy a link. Come on, come on, come on. I keep sharing this to TCP too, by the way. See if trying to be a nice guy and keep a lifeline open.
That's always nice.
No. That's not what I'm looking for. What am I missing?
We have somebody who's trying to get into the. Where we have somebody in the waiting room here.
I think that's Joy.
Okay, I will admit.
Pretty sure that's Joy. Host.
Hello.
Joy? Hey!
You're currently muted. Left hand.
How about
there you
now?
go.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. How are you guys?
Why do I have to show you how to do this? You're the pro.
I know,
You're
right?
the trailblazer. How am I showing you how to do? We've been doing nothing but Zoom since March, Joy.
I know. That's awful.
So what I'm doing right now, just so you're aware, because I'm not looking at you, is I am doing the Facebook sharing part of the program. We share the program to roughly 70 places across Facebook. I'm hearing myself too as well on your end, I think.
Yeah, I can hear you. How do
Yeah,
you share to more than one?
I'm hearing myself back through your speakers.
Oh.
Also, so then we do that, and then I will push the live radio button in about 5 minutes. We will be live. The audio portion of the program will be live globally in 5 minutes, and then the recorded versions, as you well know, will live on in Facebook infamy and goes to the YouTube channel, the Instagram. I don't think we've been doing very good with the LinkedIn. Something's been happening funky with LinkedIn, and the Twitter should have the link on it. And I think I've been a little lazy on that standpoint, to be honest. All right, so let's start this.
Is my sound still kind of off?
No, I think it, George. Thought?
No, your sound is very good.
And by the way, Joy, the other square that is in front of you is my technical producer, and I am honored enough to say has been my friend probably for 2 decades now is George Dare. So please, I introduced the two of you there.
Hello. How you doing?
Virtually, at least.
Hi.
I'm the overhead projector, as it were.
Kind of. Yeah.
See, that's why I didn't know about my microphone. My producer is not with me. Usually he's like, okay.
Yeah, usually if you wear a headset or if you wear earbuds with a noise canceling microphone, Jeff won't hear like the reverb in the background of him. So
I have a hard time enough listening to myself. Hearing it twice is just, oh God, it's torture.
Yeah, I don't watch my own shows. It's cringeworthy.
I don't watch it either. I really don't. I don't watch it after it's over. I figure I was there.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened? I more or less know what happened. I was there.
It actually lives on in political perpetuity, so it's just
Political
lives on forever.
Political infamy, perhaps. Like a.
Almost like a disemboweled voice. Sorry, like a
God, I'm not going to live that down in my. And I shouldn't either. Why did I tell you that? This is what I get for being honest with you, by the way. Okay, I think I got everybody. Of course, it disappeared when it happened. I think I got everybody. Okay, where are we? 458. Open up. Comments are on. Oh, we turned the volume down, you dummy. Okay, brilliant. We are 2 minutes from radio. So, don't know if you're still on the email address. Keystone Progress Summit is Wednesday. I can forward.
Some neolibs.
Whoa, try that again, because that was all very robotic.
Oh, they're having a few neolibs speak.
Yeah, well, and doing it on a Wednesday, but yeah, It is what it is. I will get there as soon as I can out of work, and I will.
You in Pennsylvania?
Yep, we're in the Lehigh Valley. I live in the Saucon Valley in Lower Saucon Township, Hellertown, just south of Bethlehem.
I was born and raised in Bethlehem.
Well, we're not even 3 minutes south of there, right in Hellertown, right down the rail line from where the steel used to come through.
Yep. Now I'm in Harrisburg, so not too far.
Hey, how are things there? But I'll probably ask you again when we're officially on the air. But how are things there? Are they quiet or tense? I should think at least at a minimum tense.
The capital's pretty busy.
I should think. Nothing's kicked off yet, though.
Not officially.
Yeah, I haven't seen any reports that there's been even any insurrectionists even showed up. I haven't seen any video of that yet. It looks like Harrisburg's, but they've showed up they're in Michigan. They had an armed crowd in Michigan. I haven't seen anything about Harrisburg quite yet. One more minute. I usually do 5:01. Give everybody a break. I will start this in just 1 minute. Where did you go? Because I'm going to try something funky this week. I'm going to try a theme song this week, George. Hey, 12 folks in the chat. Thank you for being there. Official kickoff starts any moment. Starts in just a few seconds. So hang in there, everybody. Stop turning the comments off, he said in the Facebook to an inanimate object. 5:01. All right, here we go, gang. Let's see if this works, George. And
want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know and young enough to do. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight? A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right. A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed? It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always
Well, it just
fair?
does keep going,
We'll
doesn't it?
measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Well, how about that? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I tried a little something different today. It's going to be, I say almost every week that the show's going to be a little different this week, and somehow it kind of always is, but we always settle into a comfortable pattern. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are thrilled to have each and every single one of you back with us again. This is the Kennedy Effect for 17 January 2021. From the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States on planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. That's us. This is the Kennedy Effect. I'm Jeff Kennedy, your presenter and host for yet another Sunday evening of political and progressive news, facts, science, data, and talk and interaction with you. Let's get to it. As you all know, let's get through let's get through a little bit of the bookkeeping, as we say. If you are watching us anywhere on the 70 now, 70, roughly, places that we share the program on Facebook, we thank you. We thank every single one of you, each and every one of you. And wherever you fall on the political spectrum, you are welcome here. And you are respected. We might try to do a little education on you, but you are respected and welcome here. So we thank you very much for that. If you want to join the live chat, there's currently about 8-ish folks in the live chat right now. Just come over to our home Facebook page, the home Facebook page and home world for all things the Kennedy Effect. That other side of information. If you go to that other side of information, we will see you, get a chance to say hello. You can ask a question, a comment, yell at me, agree with me, disagree with me, whatever your fancy. To our sisters, brothers, friends, and family on hot101.net, our listeners around the globe, thank you so very much for being here with us again on this Sunday evening here on the Eastern time zone of the United States, but we know we have listeners literally around the world, the Australia, New Zealand, South Pacific area, Central and South America, north of the border and south of the border, and even a couple dots around Europe. We thank you so very, very much for being part of the program yet again. We are proud and humbled to be part of the Hot101.net family. If you do not know how to listen to Hot101.net, it is super, super simple. You can just go to the main website page, which would be, hot101.net, and you can listen right there. You can go get one of the apps for hot101.net. There is an app for both major operating systems. You can go to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, or the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or if you have the Tune In radio app, you can just search there for hot101.net, and you can listen to us and everything that happens on hot101.net. The recorded part of the recorded version of the program, he tried to say, always good when the radio guy and host stumbles over his own tongue. The recorded version of the program, if you can't catch us live, you can always find us at our YouTube channel, which is also the same name as the Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. You can find it is a repository and library of all of our episodes right there. How do you get a hold of us? I make a big deal of this every week. We want you to interact and be part of the program. Well, there's a lot of different ways. You, again, can come to the live chat. We will see you there. We'll say hello. I'll take your comments and questions at our home Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. The Twitter page is open right in front of me. This old guy is on the Twitter machine. You can tweet us, live tweet at me directly. I will see it. Again, another place where you can enter your comments, your questions, agree, scream, disagree, virtually throw things. We can do that right there. Live tweet us. You can search for That Other Side of Information, or our Twitter handle is at That Kennedy Talk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And we will open up the phone line later on in the program. But let me get to, and there's something that I'm forgetting, and I remember telling George after the program ended last week that, boy, I don't pump that part enough, and I don't direct people there enough, and I'm forgetting it yet again. Hopefully he will somehow read my mind and think of what I'm forgetting. But regardless of that, let's get to our guest. Our guest is I'm very lucky that I have a lot of friends, and that politics is not just a nasty business. It can still be a very noble profession. It is one of, if not the best way, other than being ridiculously wealthy, I suppose, of helping a very large number of people at one time. And I have been very fortunate to meet a lot of great people in my political adventures, and one of them is joining me before she runs off to Sunday dinner with the family. She is a host of more different versions of her own program on so many different platforms. I'll let her tell you all about it. But just in the relatively short time that we've known each other, I think the show's been on several different platforms already, but I'll let her explain all that. And that is the one and the only, and boy, does she get much better guests than me. And I need to steal that juice right now. I need to bottle that and have a shot of it and buy a 6-pack, because boy, does she get the guests. We struggle through it, as you're going to see tonight. But she gets them all, and they all come speak to her because of, she is a powerful, powerful progressive voice, and a key part of progressive media, and someone that you need to be listening to. We'll let her tell you how to do all that. And that is my dear friend, Savage Joy Mann. Joy, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the introduction. How do I, people who never heard of me are like going to be disappointed what a dork I am.
Well, they're not going to not have heard of you, hopefully, anymore. And they will know where you're going to explain to everyone where to find you. And in fact, why don't we just do that straight out of the gate so that we get a chance to do it perhaps more than once in the short time that you are kind enough to be with us. How does everyone tell us a little bit about, who is Joy Mann and how did you get here?
So I've been doing a show for about 3.5 years. And basically it started inadvertently because I did a video about in 2017, I did a video of how difficult it was going to be to stop campaigning for Bernie. It was like a 2-minute video, and it ended up going viral because I was super emotional about it. And then I just got an offer to do my own show, and I said that they were crazy, but they persisted, and somehow I just got lucky and realized I actually could do something like that. So 3.5 years later, it's just kind of evolved. And I've been, like you said, I have been very fortunate with the guests I've had.
You've been beyond fortunate. I'm not even going to be kind about it. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to fake it. I'm jealous beyond words. You get rock star guests. You get big names, Joy. You get Congress people and people high up in the parties, and you know, again, you need to bottle that and send some over, because it has been like pulling teeth over here sometimes, not all the time, sometimes getting guests. It's a rough go, but but everyone comes and speaks to you, and they're not small, which it's going to sound a lot worse than I mean it. These are not small names. I mean, proper national high profile figures come and speak to you every week. It's incredible.
But I have to work for that. Like, I don't want it to seem like I just like, hey, my name is Joy, come on my show. Like, a lot of people, I'll have to email several times and be like, just checking in, did you see this email? You know, things like that. And I have been turned down by people. I definitely have.
Turned down, to be honest, is better than ignored. We tend to get ignored
True.
on occasion. That's turned down. At least you got an answer one way or the other. Let me just turn to our other guest, who I shouldn't say just our other guest like it's nothing, you know, like it's a side, you know, we're kind enough to have two folks join us tonight, at least for the initial parts of the program. And then George and I are going to carry you through the rest of the program. We asked Joy to be here because she lives in Harrisburg. We want to get a report on how things are going in Harrisburg. Harrisburg, of course, being the state capital of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it is one of the 50 armed military targets by insurrectionists, seditionists, and treasonists, the self-appointed militia throughout the nation, along with and those insurrections and armed insurrections, by the way, were slated to begin today. I have seen an armed mob that showed up in the Michigan Capitol. It was not as large as they were fearing, thank goodness. And the last that I had seen, nothing had kicked off quite yet. So we want to ask Joy about that. And then our other esteemed guest is the Reverend Dr. Gregory Edwards, to talk to us, because tomorrow is certainly not an insignificant day. It is not just a day off for some of us. It is a national holiday. It is the Martin Luther King Jr. national holiday, the recognition of his birthday. So we welcome in Dr. Edwards. Dr. Edwards, welcome to the program.
Hello, Jeff. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for being here. And I know that you're shoving this in between a couple other events that you're doing today. A Rolling Stone gathers no moss. And if there's a Rolling Stone anywhere around here, it's Greg Edwards. I can tell you that. You are never still.
We get a lot of work. Fortunately or unfortunately, we get a lot of work around MLK commemoration, which is on the heels of Black History Month. And sometimes I feel like predominantly white institutions say, hey, who's the black guy we can call into the space? So, whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure, but here I am, right? So this week is an incredibly busy week. We're kind of the trifecta of what happened on January 6th. Tomorrow is the commemoration of Dr. King's, what would be his 92nd birthday. And then on Wednesday, we have the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So, and of course, we're on bated breath to see if there's any continued domestic terrorism at the state capitol. So who knows?
First time that the national capitol had been breached since 1814 by the British during the War of 1812. And even during the Civil War, the Confederate battle flag never set foot on the Capitol, but it did on 6 January. So, Joy, you are in Harrisburg. Can you tell Dr. Edwards, myself, George, and our literal global audience, how are things in Harrisburg? What have you seen? I don't know if you were out and about at all today, or if you were just lucky enough to glance out the window and kind of get a gauge of things. can you tell us how things are in the capital of Pennsylvania?
At this point, there hasn't been anything to my knowledge. But I will say that as an activist who has organized many marches and rallies and protests on those Capitol steps, we have been counter protested many times by Trump supporters, especially when we do Black Lives Matter, or I organized a immigrant solidarity march, and with over 1,000 people, that was not looked at very well. And quite honestly, we do have some cops who are buddy with a lot of the Trump supporters. And you will see them patting each other on the back and, actually standing with them instead of with us. So there is that goes on, and that is definitely not just in Harrisburg. They also, just allotted our Capitol Police $70,000 more of big equipment to wear, things like that.
Riot gear. I'm assuming riot gear. Essentially, you're discussing.
Exactly. And there's going to be something, I have no doubt. There were, even when we were doing some Black Lives Matter events, and this isn't just the past few months. I mean, we've been doing Black Lives Matter events for years. But especially the past year, I would say, when we promote an event we're organizing, we have found that some Trump supporters will organize an event at the same time, on the same day, on the same Capitol steps, and people won't link them together. So people will go thinking it's for Black Lives Matter, and people will go thinking it's for Trump supporters, and then everyone shows up. And it's purpose. So we do our best to kind of, watch out. We don't get permits or anything like that. It's our streets. We don't, I've never gotten a permit. I really, if you're gonna arrest me for that, go ahead. So there's no way to really track, who's gonna have the Capitol steps. So people unfortunately don't always know that they could be counter protested in the same exact spot, and by people who won't wear masks, things like that. So as a journalist, I want to be there Wednesday. I want to be there, but with COVID, I have a lot of trepidation. And I can stay across the street. I'm not worried about them. Like, if I go down, I go down fighting. Like, it is what it is. But it's COVID and a bunch of people without masks that freaks me out. But yeah, I mean, I guarantee there will be something going down, and I will not be surprised if the cops do pretty much nothing.
Well, I believe there's 450-ish National Guard troops surrounding the Capitol currently, and these armed insurrections were supposed to begin today as the 17th of January. Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, and they were going to take place all week, really. Dr. Edwards, when you sat home, or wherever that you may have been, I should say, I think it's going to be one of those dates that we look back on and say, where were you when? This is such a multi-layered question. It's probably something that you could answer for, days, hours or days. But as you're sitting home on 6th January watching the events at the national Capitol, as an American, as a man of color, coming off of, with the Martin Luther King Day coming up, blatant and very, very obvious difference in the treatment of the insurrectionists at the Capitol, as they were predominantly, if not all, white, compared to some of the protests that I'm sure you've seen in your day. What are you thinking, as a on that many different layers? As you can see, I'm a man of almost no color whatsoever. I'm damn near translucent. And I have not lived your experiences. We share many of the same policy positions. We share many of the same concerns. I think, I find the science of the human created issue of race rather fantastic, in that you and I have no difference other than you have a bit more melanin in your skin. We don't want different things. We don't seek different things. Your success is not built on my failure. You're not trying to take anything from me. I'm not trying to take anything from you. There are people who are, but I am not. But when you sit, if you were home or at the office or at your church, you have so many different more layers to view this coup attempt than even the rest of us might. What are you thinking when you're sitting there that day watching 6th January?
Well, so I actually, I was on a Zoom call, right? So not unlike other folk, I was on a Zoom call, and I really can't remember what the call was, but my phone started to literally blow up, vibrate, people sending text messages saying, you've got to
Are you watching this? Yeah, turn on the TV.
You got to check this out. And I was on an organizing call, was organizing clergy. Like, you got to stop what you're doing, you got to watch this. And I was like, what is going on? Right. So, we got off the phone call. I watched it. But let me just say this. As a person who comes from a group of people who have long experienced centuries of white domestic terrorism, I was not shocked, nor was I surprised. That there's a picture of my congresswoman who, Susan Wild, who was up in the gallery, was clutching her heart. She had stated that it was the scariest day of her life. And I'm not trying to make trite of what she was feeling at that moment, as Representative Crow came to her rescue to try to calm her down. But that is really the experience of every person of Black African heritage in these yet to be United States. That's exactly what I experience when I send my Black sons and daughters out the house each and every day, not knowing if they're going to return back home in a body bag, or a police officer is going to show up, or I'm going to get a phone call that your son or daughter is in jail, not because of anything they did, but simply because of the color of their skin. Race is a humanly, sociologically constructed fabrication that Dr. King said that we are all mutually connected in a web of mutuality. What affects one of us affects all of us. So, on the streets, they say, what goes around comes around. It doesn't mistake me that on January 6th, white domestic terrorists also killed folk that looked like them and also had their same political ideology, right? White supremacy will kill us all. It just will kill Black folk and brown folk earlier, right? Because of the preconceived implicit bias and systems of racism, white privilege, and structure. But it's going to kill white folk too. It's going to kill white folk too, because it's not steeped in a person. It's steeped in a system of practices that are deeply entrenched within the fabric and the soul of America. Donald Trump is not an anomaly, but he's not the pathology either. He's a symptom of a sickness at the soul of America. And we continue to be in denial that white supremacy has undermined all of the fabric that we call this republic. And as Brother Malcolm X said, eventually the chickens will come back home to roost. And on January 6th, and I'm not saying this with glee, but many of us who are conscious, woke, and Black are saying to our white siblings, we tried to tell you all, We tried to tell you all, if a wall is built, it's not to keep folk that look like me out. It's going to keep folk that look like y'all out. I'm telling you, this is in the fabric of the nation. It's woven into the experiment of these yet to be United States. And so I wasn't surprised. Many of us were not surprised. I hear my white siblings saying, "Oh my God, this is not the America I know. This is not my America." I'm saying, well,
yes, it is.
If you've been black for 5 minutes, this is the America you know when you're walking through the parking lot of Wegmans. This is the America you know when you're on the escalator or elevator at Macy's. This is the America we know when white women clutch their purses and white men get into their cars. This is the America that our sons and daughters have longed to have dealt with. The terrorism that comes from white supremacy, that is steeped in this pathology that simply because of the color of your skin, somehow you are superior in intellect and being and mind, which is a total pathology. And so I wasn't surprised by January 6th, Jeff. I did see just before I got on, someone sent me, folks send me stuff and sometimes it just throws me off the edge. Someone sent me a 3-minute and 48-second video. I don't know if you all have seen this. It's actually from the New Yorker. I think it was on today.
That's
48 video of what happened in the Senate chamber.
Well, you only got 3 minutes, 3:40.
That's all I want to say.
It's a 12-minute long video.
I saw 3 minutes. I call him of the GJ or the JG Wentworth guy, the guy in the caveman outfit, who walks in the middle, and then at the end of this,
the supposed shaman.
At the end of this, they offer prayers to Jesus Christ, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So we've got white supremacy interlocked with Christian heresy and Christian nationalism wrapped around a pornographic patriotism, and they're saying they stole the election, which really is code for too many of y'all black folk voted. And
well, we need
to change the outcome.
We need to remember that
because you are winning, we must be losing. So I wasn't surprised. I was surprised, a little bit surprised, to see the officer. Now I'm going to use hyperbole. I thought he was going to bake a cake and give it to them. Will you please, can you please stop that? Okay, take one picture. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? You're asking these folks, can you please? Now listen, I was amongst a group of 200 people when Donald Trump was first elected. It was in January of 2017. And we were the first folk. We were fighting for healthcare. I was with my SEIU brothers and sisters, my union brothers and sisters. We were the first folk to get arrested in the Capitol under Donald Trump's regime. And I will tell you, with swift action and immediacy, the Capitol Police came from the north, the south, the east, and the west. They arrested folk in wheelchairs with walkers. Yep. We were fighting because you remember Donald Trump and Orrin Hatch, remember that name, were trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which we know is imperfect to begin with. So let me just say that. But we were trying to fight for every medical right. And there were folk in wheelchairs, there were quadriplegics. They arrested everyone without mercy, put the handcuffs on them, it was seamless, it was interrupted, and they had probably dozens of officers. So what is the difference between a group of white, brown, and black folks showing up and the group of a bunch of white folks showing up? We didn't break any windows. Mm-hmm. We didn't destroy any property. We were simply there doing civil disobedience. And with a haste and a quickness, we went downtown and were fingerprinted, booked, and then released the next day. And it wasn't the same size crowd, but there were a few hundred of us. So what's the difference? We weren't offered tea. We weren't asked to take a picture in the Senate chambers. We were ushered with immediacy, Jeff, and urgency. So
you can find that video on YouTube very well.
Right.
Dr. Edwards talked about a video he was sent earlier in the day from the New Yorker. You can find that video very easily on YouTube as well. Those folks in wheelchairs were pulled out of their chairs. They weren't even arrested with the dignity of at least we'll push the chair for you into whatever holding area. They were dragged out of their chairs.
Now, you do know, and I'll step back from this, you do know we had 4 busloads of people from the Lehigh Valley. 4 busloads of people from the Lehigh Valley. Folk are talking about this being like a civil war, and I'm not trying to romanticize the Civil War, but in the Civil War, if you were from a slaveholding state and a certain geography, at least you could kind of relegate folk to one side. These are teachers in public schools. These are dentists. These are lawyers. They are pastors and preachers and clerics. These are professional, quote unquote, professional people. These are retired firefighters, and they live among us. They live among us. That's, I think, what's changed, right? They are so integrated in the fabric of our neighborhoods and what we do vocationally that's what makes it really dangerous. I would rather see someone come down the street with a burning cross and a white hoodie, because at least I will know where you stand. These folks are integrated within everything that we do. That, my friend, is the scary thing.
I was
Joy,
in
on your
DC protesting 4 days before last Wednesday. Same cops. We were standing there, maybe 50, 60 of us, and we're standing there with poster board signs. We want Medicare for all. We're giving speeches. We were threatened with arrest because we were standing there. Oh, I forgot to say there were people of color. So that,
right,
you know, mostly women, people of color. So,
Joy, on your program, and for all the years that you have done your program, and it's been a lot longer and more well known than this one, to be fair. How many times have you had the opportunity, offered pushback about this, what Dr. Edwards beyond correctly mentions, is this social creation out of thin air of race? Because we know on a scientific level, there are not multiple races. There's one human race. Dr. Edwards may look a bit different from me because he has a bit more melanin in his skin than I do. But we are not a different scientific classification of race. We're not even in the canine world. He's a beagle and I'm a German shepherd. It's not even that different. We're one race. How many times in your experience, when I say that on this program, even if I am not getting phone callers or comments that day, you can almost feel the shock, if that's the right word, or the complete, sometimes just I've never heard that before, or I've never considered it, or even I can somehow feel the pushback of, yeah, we are different. No, we're not. There's literally no scientific difference or manifestation or classification of race. It is a socially created, and even that makes it sound a lot more antiseptic than it really is. How many times on your program have you had this discussion? Have you had this pushback in your experience?
I have made it very important to always have Black guests on. I had a Black disabled woman who, explained her experience of being, judged for being Black and for being disabled. I've had a panel of Black gentlemen to discuss, all their different experiences and what we can do as white people to learn. I've been very, very vocal about having people of color anyone who experiences something different than what this white girl does, because I'm not going to speak on behalf of people. I want people to share their experiences. As far as what happened with Trump and last Wednesday, that was not surprising. I've been talking about that happening for months. Anyone, and it's only white people who are shocked. It's only white people who are, that's not my America. Open your eyes. I'm literally legally blind and I see this, like, open your eyes. This was not a shock. People like that are opportunists. They are looking for something. They are looking, oh, we don't want to wear masks. Let's go. They are looking for, oh, this election was fraud. Let's go. They are looking for an excuse to be absolutely egregious and hateful. And it's very feasible that in 4 years, we're going to have a Tom Cotton running or something like that. And it's, it's very scary. I cannot even, it's scary as a white person. I cannot even fathom how people of color are feeling with these just hateful, disgusting people. So it's very important for people to have a serious reality check. Last Wednesday should have woken a lot of people up to what others are being subjected to, because these people were noticing cops standing back, letting them walk through, no stopping, no nothing. We know damn right well that Black people carrying a Gatorade in their pocket can be shot in the back, but, white people with, Auschwitz t-shirts are going to have police move to the side and say, come on in. So this should be a rude awakening for every single white person, period.
Dr. Edwards, can I ask you about that? Pretty much the same question as well. You mentioned it in your answer. How often do you have the discussion of this falsity of this science of race, that there are several races of human beings, when we know scientifically there are not? There is one human race. We just might look different depending on what part of the globe we originated from. How often do you have this conversation? Is it part of the pushback that you offer when you were trying to educate people? You're muted still, by the way, but is it part of the pushback that you offer folks when you're trying to enlighten them or explain your life experience or make them understand that your successes are not built on other people's failures? They're built when we all succeed, or can at least succeed together. I find this scientific part of this, again, just at the risk of repeating myself, I find it fascinating that folks don't realize the social construct of this, the deliberate social construct of this.
I would say for me specifically, and maybe this is, I could say I'm fortunate. I don't go looking for unenlightened white folk to educate them. So I'm fortunate that within my sphere, both immediate and outlying.
You may not seek them out, but they find you.
Yeah. I mean, through interaction, but I really and probably have not really. I mean, I consider myself a conscious person of Black African heritage, conscious because of what was poured into me through informal and formal education and mentoring, right? Because dare I say that not all people of color, not all Black folk are conscious. Let's be very clear. There were a couple of Black folk in that crowd too. So I want to be clear about that, right? So not everybody Black is conscious and woke. But I would say that in terms of a confrontation around race, I really don't have too many of them. And let me unpack that. Because I know who I am. Also, because to be Black is to be political. And I'm not just talking about in scholarly environments or on shows like this, but I mean to walk into the grocery store, to pump gas at Wawa. To be Black and in public is political, and your life is at risk. So we who understand that, because we're conscious and woke, always carry around with us this hyper consciousness of what it means to be treated as the other in a land that your ancestors helped build, but from which you cannot directly benefit. So we are scanning every environment. When we walk into the grocery store, when we go to pump gas, when we go about the routine, everyday, boring things that most folk take for granted, when we buy and sell a house, we are thinking about the pictures and the artwork that's up, and will this house sell if white folks see Black art? I don't know. All of that stuff comes into our being, which unfortunately helps to perpetuate our higher mortality rate from our white brothers and sisters. So we die at astronomically higher rates, at higher levels, and have suppressed immunological systems, not because we have a bad diet or we do something different, but because of the stress of being Black in America in this current age is in our DNA. On top of that, there's been a study done. I think the Harvard Medical Association did some kind of genealogical study, and what they found out was two important things. That first of all, any group that has had genocide or historic atrocities committed against that group racially or culturally has the trauma inside of their DNA for 25 generations. That's 625 years.
I've heard that study. It is remarkable.
So that's A. So the DNA, the pain and the trauma of my enslaved ancestors and their DNA has been passed down to me, and there's really nothing I can do about it. And it comes out oftentimes in, as I said, higher mortality rates, or in not so subtle ways, the way I parent my children, right? Because I want them to be safe and I don't want their mother to get a phone call. So I tell my sons, don't show your tattoos, cut your hair, pull your pants up, don't tint your windows. All of the things that average, everyday adolescent should be able to do, I hinder my children from doing because I don't want to get a phone call that my sons or daughters have been arrested or are in a body bag. The stress of that on an ongoing basis is what drives heart rates, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I am very aware of that. And I don't go looking to educate white people. White people come to me, and that's a wonderful thing. It's not a bad thing. I will say white supremacy and racism is not an invention of Black folk. And so most folk that listen to me for 5 minutes, they know who I am usually and where I'm coming from in terms of my perspective. What we need a transracial, multicultural, dynamic coalition built of our white siblings who are truly woke, not neoliberals, not the folk that get out the signs and think, can't we just get rid of Trump and life will be wonderful again? Well, we can get rid of Trump and Joe Biden is going to be president. Trayvon Martin is still dead. Breonna Taylor's murders still haven't been convicted. Nothing is going to change immediately on January 20th except the name that's outside of the White House, right? We need white folk, white woke folk. We need some John Browns. We need white folks who are willing to make a sacrifice and stand alongside of their white brother, their Black brothers and sisters, and hold their cousins accountable. Because these are your cousins, your fathers, your sisters, your mothers, your daughters, your son. It wasn't us. That was your kinfolk, right? And a lot of what I'm hearing from white folk is this is embarrassment. Not like we need to do something about this, like embarrassed. Because now the great American myth has been exposed. American exceptionalism has been exposed for the lie that it is. Actually, we are quite ordinary, and our past is built on a sick pathology of racism and white supremacy. We need white folk in this to be engaging, locking their uncles at the Thanksgiving dinner table and saying, actually, that's false.
Crazy Uncle Harold.
Yeah,
We all
I'm
have.
serious. But that's where, I mean, we talk about reparations and we talk about federal legislation. I'm all in favor of that. But we need white folk to join with black folk so that we both together understand. And I do believe this. I'm not apocalyptic. We are at the beginning of the end. We're either at the beginning of the end of democracy or we're at the beginning of the end of white supremacy. Either way, we're at the beginning of the end. We have to determine what ending America is going to have. Because I think this experiment is coming to a grinding halt. And every time we look, and this is not, I'm not talking about being Afrocentric. I'm going to be very clear. I'm proud of who I am. I'm going to be very clear. But I'm not talking about Afrocentrism. But every time we look, black folk are literally saving the soul of the nation. Whether it's in Georgia from Stacey Abrams, whether it's the black Capitol police officer who without gun waved off white supremacists who were storming the Capitol.
Drew them away from.
Every time we turn around, black folk are saving white America's ass. And we don't realize that.
And that officer drew them away from the Senate chamber.
The future and the vision of America will not come from the loins of people who oppress. Not going to happen. It's not. And I think there's a great fear there, Jeff. I think there's a great fear that as black and brown folk become more numerous, that somehow we're going to turn around and do to white folks what they've done to us. No. Most black folk that I know, woke or unwoke, don't want revenge. They want equality and equity.
Peace. They want peace. They want an opportunity. They want the same thing everyone else has. Not more, the same.
Same thing.
You want a safe neighborhood. You want a safe school. You want a quality school. You want a job where you can take care of yourself and maybe be able to take, with some health coverage, maybe take a vacation every now and then. Keep the car running. Keep a roof over your head. Not more, not special stuff, but Joy, is the United States, Tom Hartman has referred to the United States now as an oligarchy at a minimum that I no longer refer to on a regular basis in my day-to-day life and on this program and in my political life. I no longer refer to Republicans as a political party. I believe they have failed to meet the definition of a political party. They have no leadership. There is no guidance. There is no platform. There is no plan. There is no future. They are simply a corporation now, where the people who, quote unquote, work in the corporation, the elected officials and the structure, party officers, have taken it upon themselves. Their only real goal is to direct as much money as they can to the top 1%, i.e. the shareholders. If we did that in the private sector, it would be called a corporation. So the Republicans are a corporation, and they are now split between the corporate and the fascist. So because there is another F word out there, folks, and it's one we can say on the air that we don't have to worry about. It's called fascist. And we shouldn't be afraid to use it. We should not be afraid to call things what they are. So Joy, as a very, very deep political observer and for an activist and host for a very, very long time. In fact, even I should back up and say that even President Carter years ago, former President Carter years ago on the Tom Hartman program said, we are not a democracy any longer. We are an oligarchy with unbridled political patronage, bribery, and corruption. And of course, the three big Supreme Court decisions, Buckley, Bellotti, and Citizens United making that possible. Are we a what are we? What is the United States now, in your opinion?
I mean, yes, the Republicans, what you said is accurate, but let's not forget the Democrats. I mean, let's, I know Doctor knows Bernie. I saw you guys speak together. What they did to Bernie is not democracy. What they did to progressives is not democracy. What they are doing to we the people and is violence. They also are not fighting for survival checks. They also are not fighting for rent moratorium. This has been going on.
Universal basic income, the end of Reaganism as we know it. Bernie talked about raising the top marginal tax rate to 50% when it was 74% during the Nixon administration, 91% during the Roosevelt and Eisenhower administrations, and everyone went apoplectic and said that rich people would flee the country. Well, I'm happy to show you where the port of Newark is and where the airport is there as well. We have done this before. The answers to our problems, and I do think that the problems of doctor will correct me. God knows, and you can if I'm wrong, because I'm happy to learn what I do not know. But these programs are exacerbated. These problems are exacerbated exponentially by the economic violence that we have seen in this country. 40 years of Reaganism, 40 years of reversing, ending, destroying the New Deal, 40 to 50 trillion dollars of wealth being transferred to the top 1%. And that was just in the income tax cuts, folks, not the capital gains cuts, not the offshoring of monies, not the the ability to now pay CEOs in stock, which was illegal before Reagan. The cuts to the inheritance tax, the estate tax, both taxes of which Jefferson himself fought for to keep the establishment of a permanent upper class, which, oh, by the way, we fought a revolution for that. Is how much exacerbated is this by 40 years of Reaganism, by the fact that we no longer have the largest middle class? We are not the largest economy on the planet. We are not the richest nation on earth any longer. That's all China, because we took our industrial base and sent it there very, very intentionally and very, very planned. How much is this all exacerbated, Doctor, by the economic situation, which is not an excuse, but an explanation, or at least a contributing factor to what we see when those folks who are storming the Capitol, if that were a bunch of black folks, there would be a bunch of white folks saying, why the hell aren't they home working? So where are these folks with their jobs that they can storm the Capitol on a Wednesday afternoon?
Well, many of them, as I alluded to earlier, I mean, not all of them, but many of them were white collar workers who had the privilege of taking the day off, traveling, paying for a bus ticket to go to Washington, D.C.
Including some of our own legislators here in the Commonwealth, right, by the way, including one Republican would-be comic book superhero, Doug Mastriano, who desperately wants to be governor. He was there and in the insurrection as well. The gentleman who ran against Connor Lamb, whose name is escaping me at the moment, Rick Saccone it is, I think. And I've been told there are several other legislators that were there. I have yet to been able to find their names quite yet. Perhaps Joy might know, but I haven't been able to find all their names quite yet. But there is an economic component to this, is there not, Doctor?
Absolutely. I mean, we have eons, decades of structured economic inequality that has been legislated from federal and state policy. And race, once again, is used to exploit persons who actually have more in common than not, right? We all know that quote by LBJ, that if you can take the lowest white man and convince him that he's better than the best black man, you can rob his pockets in daylight while he is awake. Because at the end of the day, if you can convince him, regardless of his economic status, that at least he's better than a black man, they wouldn't say black man, they would use the racial epithet
term.
that you can literally rob him blind. So there's a certain there. I'm sure there were some people. There was a mixed multitude. I'm sure there were some folk down there who were of that thinking. But race and class and economics are really intrinsically tied together because the narrative of race has been used as a dog whistle to keep, if you will, the poor, middle, working class apart from each other. It happened in the Bacon's Rebellion in the earlier part of America's history, when white folks who were indentured servants, who were really of the same economic class as enslaved West Africans, were given a whip and a shack, but their shack had a hardwood floor while ours had a dirt floor. And they were told that they were better. And so folk that really should be united in a common cause economically have been separated because of the racial divide. And somebody's got to tell our white brothers and sisters who are living from paycheck to paycheck or less than paycheck to paycheck, our white brothers and sisters who have worked at Bethlehem Steel, Dixie Cup, who retired, worked, put their pension in, but because of the economy, not because of me, not because of my children, not because of EEOC, are wiping tables down at Burger King and McDonald's. That ain't got nothing to do with Black folk. That's got to do with federal legislation around income equality that Republicans and Democrats fail to address. You know, Dr. King was arrested one time. You all probably heard the story. He was arrested one time. He was marching for folk around the living wage. And the police officers beat him and they arrested him, harassed him, put him in jail. And when he was in jail, he began to talk to one of his officers who was guarding his cell and had a conversation with him. Dr. King asked the officer, well, let me ask you a question. You know, are you able to feed your family? And of course, the officer said, not really. We're not able to feed our family. And then he said, well, dare I ask, you know, what is your wage? And the guy told him your wage. Dr. King said, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be arresting me, but you'd be marching with us, right? So the political narrative only can exist when folk that have more in common than not are at opposite sides of the camp because of dog whistle politicians and because of public policy that's deeply steeped in white supremacy. As long as white folk think they're better than Black folk, they will never stand in solidarity with us.
What would Dr. King have said, in your opinion, in your studies of him, sitting in front of a TV or, dare I say, even a computer or device of some type? As we say, he would be 92 now. What would he have said on 6th January?
You know, I don't know what Dr. King, really, I don't know, having studied King and having gone to Morehouse College. I know a lot about Dr. King. I'm not sure what he would say or do. I know he would do something. Dr. King understood that we are all tied together in an inescapable web of mutuality. What affects one affects all. So yeah, Dr. King advocated for civil rights, specifically for Black folk, but for all folk, not just Black folk, all folk. And notice that when Black folk got the right to vote in 64, 65, when that landmark legislation was passed and LBJ signed that documentation, that every other disenfranchised, marginalized group inevitably a few years later benefited from, whether it was the ADA or a woman's right to vote or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All boats don't rise equally if you don't start with the boat that's deemed the lowest and at the bottom of the ocean. And that's where Black folk have been historically. So Dr. King knew that, but Dr. King also knew, as a moral cosmopolitan, knew that the Black struggle was tied to the struggle of people everywhere, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know what he would have done. What he would not have done, of course, he would not have endorsed violence. he would not endorse any political candidate. So Dr. King was not an endorser. You would not call Dr. King for political endorsement. Dr. King would not endorse political candidates. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to be talking to my friend, Reverend Warnock, who's a good friend of mine, it's a Morehouse brother, on how he's going to maintain his prophetic edge now that he's a duly elected member of Congress. Because it's hard to be both a prophet and a politician. I know that I ran for Congress. I contemplated that long and hard. It's really hard to thine own self be true, in the words of Shakespeare, but to keep that prophetic edge. Dr. King told a group of folk, Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson, told them that they will come to you and they will offer you prizes and trinkets. They will ask you to run. Don't do it. Because the moment that you do it, because you are tied to this movement, you will be compromised and they will find out what your price is. You cannot be a prophet on the payroll. So you have to decide who you are, whose you are, and to whom you are accountable. That was very clear with Dr. King. And he told that to John Lewis. John Lewis, of course, went and didn't take heed to the advice, became a congressman, but was very much in line with King and always reminded us to go get in, everybody says it, good trouble. Go get in good trouble. The soul of the nation is sick. Joy knows that, Jeff, you know the soul is sick. Now, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about church. I'm not talking about Christianity. I am saying the essence, your soul, the soul of America is sick because it is in denial about its founding facts. Founding fathers, faithful and enslavers, right? We keep on rehearsing the deeply mythologized myths of America, and we don't want to look into the mirror. I think January 6th caused America to look into the mirror. Like, wow, damn, really? And they desecrated the halls of Congress. They defecated. They defecated in the halls of Congress. They broke windows. They stole furnishings. They put their feet up on desks. They ripped out the panic buttons of members of Congress, in particular, progressive women of color. They were asking for the vice president's head on a spear. They erected
they constructed a gallows in the back of the Capitol.
And in broad daylight. So I'm saying, are we going to see that this is going to be all of our fate? So yeah, they may be mad at black folk and folk that look like me, but in essence, they're coming for white folk too, because that level of rage and ignorance and lacking critical thought doesn't care. It must seek an expression of its pain. These folks are in pain. I'm not telling us to get them a warm glass of milk and a blanket. I am saying that these folk need to talk to somebody because they got a lot of stuff going on inside of them. I'm not going to call them crazy. I'm not going to call them lunatics, because to do that then is to dismiss the fact that these are doctors, lawyers, pastors, preachers, legislators. They knew something to get a job in the professional workplace. Don't call them crazy. There are folk who need help. They need because they're sick and they're making America sick. And I don't believe that this is a one-off. I don't. If this was a one-off, I'd say, you know what? Well, let's talk about it. It's historic. We'll write about it. I think this is first of many. Donald Trump and his cult following and the pathology of America must be, I'm gonna use a term from my faith tradition, it must be exorcised. Like an exorcism, when you do an exorcism, you've got to name it, identify it, and expel it from someone's being.
Well,
This is not just about class warfare. This is white supremacy. Let's all say it together. White supremacy. And look it in the face and look at how ugly it's shaped us to be.
And we also know the first step of any 12-step program is you have to admit that you have identify and admit that you have a problem. Let's reset the program at 6:05 Eastern Time on the United States. This is the Kennedy Effect for 17 January 2021. Wherever you may be across the Facebook platform, we thank you so much for being there. We share the program now to about 70 different pages all across Facebook. So wherever you are watching and or listening, you can stay right there, enjoy yourselves, take in the program, or you can come to our home Facebook group page, That Other Side of Information, and join the live chat. You can send your questions, yell, scream, comments, agree, disagree, whatever it might be. You can come to our home Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, and interact with the program. You can live tweet us. Our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk, or you can search for That Other Side of Information. The recorded version of this program will be available to you if you missed any of it on our YouTube channel, which is also That Other Side of Information. Are we seeing a pattern here, folks? Yes, we are. It's called That Other Side of Information. To our sisters, brothers on the hot101.net, thank you so much for being here yet again this week. We appreciate it so very much, each and every single one of you. We are proud and humbled to continue to be part of the hot101.net family and what will be a growing roster of talk hosts joining Hot 101, and we will bring them to you, introduce you to them as we proceed through the program. We had a phone call about that this week, actually, as we continue to add more talk programs, more talk informational, interactive programming to hot101.net. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it's very, very simple. Go to the home website, hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can get the app for hot101.net at the Apple App Store. Google Play Store if you have an Android device, or if you have the TuneIn Radio app, just search for hot101.net. I will be opening up the phone line shortly. You will be able to call the program. I know how averse you folks are to calling the program. I don't know if you're afraid to be on live radio, but you should not be. It is just a conversation. We are here for you. You can speak to me. You can speak to my guests, at least as long as they are able to be with me. I know that they both had originally told me that they had a skate, but you can talk.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
But
Get
thank
out.
you so much
You
for
both do.
having
Go
me.
for it.
And thank you, Doctor. It was so great to finally talk to you. I've followed you since Bernie endorsed you, and I saw you speak, and you rock. So thank you both so much.
Let me just remind you both before you take off. I want to say 1,000 thank yous for the time that you were able to give us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the appearance. And let me say that once you come through the doors here at the Kennedy Effect, you are part of the family. Please do not let this be a one-off. Please do not let this be your only appearance. You're part of the family now, and we will call on you again. You are welcome here any time. I mean that. I'm not just saying it. I mean it. You're part of the Kennedy Effect family now. We want you to return when you can spend some more time with us, or as these wild times continue to progress. But Doctor, please have an excellent day tomorrow. I know you have so many more people you'll be speaking to. I appreciate it so very much. And it's been way too long since I've seen you.
I know, we got to
It's
connect.
been way too long. So I wish you a peaceful day, a day of progress tomorrow, and a day of peace tomorrow. Joy, my friend, I will see you. I mean, we don't talk enough either. The RREV calls are still every Sunday night, but you're usually busy, but you know where to find us. And, don't let this be the only time you come see us, please. I know you have your own show to do, and I will reverse this on you, by the way, and show up on your platform one of these days. But the door's open to you. Please don't let this be the only time you come and see us and share your perspectives with us. We appreciate it so very much.
Thank you so much. And what a nice surprise to have the Reverend as well. This was great. Great discussion.
I knew he was going to be dropping in. We just weren't exactly sure in the time. He's not kidding. This is a busy season for him, which makes it sound trite, but I don't mean it that way. He gets a lot of requests, especially at this time of year. So
I'm sure.
The fact whatever time he could give us was a bonus. So hey, go enjoy dinner. Thank you for being here, and come back.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
So that was the Reverend Dr. Gregory Edwards and Joy Mann. You just search for Savage Joy anywhere. Just put it into the Google machine or whatever search engine you may use. DuckDuckGo if you don't want to be traced, by the way. DuckDuckGo is a search engine that does not record your history and does not sell your information. That's why I talk about that as much. They're not paying me. I don't work for them or anything like that, but it's, in this age of concern over privacy, it's a good thing to have another place where you can do your online searching and so on that won't trace your history, won't sell your search history. It isn't watching every single keystroke that you make and then trying to sell that off to somewhere else. But it's very so you can use that, and you can find Joy anywhere. Her program, you can find it on YouTube, and I'm not actually sure the direct outlet where the program is airing right now. It's actually, the program has taken on several iterations. It's been on several different platforms, and she's been doing this a long time. And I'm telling you what, she really does she might, say that it's, quote unquote, only a few emails for her to get guests. Well, I'll tell you what, she still gets them. She must have something really special in those emails, because she gets them. And, she's doing better at it than we are, I gotta say, despite the myriad of requests that we send out. So there we are with that. We hope that they will come back. I do want to say, though, George has this excellent quote from Dr. King, and he's been putting up different quotes from Malcolm X and Dr. King throughout the program, and I'm sure we'll continue to do so, at least until we fall to the backup plan that George and I discussed earlier. So I do think, though, something that we need to remember as we begin what we have been told and what you can see online is supposed to be a week of violence. Let's just be blunt. It is also Dr. King's holiday. It is not his actual birthday, but his observed national holiday birthday tomorrow. Is that economic message that Dr. Edwards talked about? Dr. King marched with union members. He marched in strikes. He wanted to increase union membership, get more workers into trade unions, period. And he had an economic message that I think sometimes I have always viewed it as being perhaps one of the more forgotten parts of his message and ministry, is that it doesn't matter what you look like or what ancestry you come from, what your heritage is. No one deserves to be poor. No one deserves to be wanting, unsheltered, without an education, without the ability to see a doctor. That people should be paid a living wage. That if they want to be part of a union, they should be allowed to do so. And that economic equality, along with an access and ability to get an education without cost, are great equalizers within a society. There are countless studies that will show us, and all the studies going forward will show us, these self-human created racial divides are exacerbated by economic trauma, by economic downturn, by economic inequality and economic failures. What does all that fancy language mean? Well, it means that when you have a country like ours, where the middle class has been stripped of its wealth to a great extent, if not a very, very thorough extent, it makes it easier to cast other folks as the other, that they did this to you, and you're poor because of them, or they're coming for you. How many times did we hear that in this administration? Remember in the 2018 midterms that Fox so-called news, was tracking the caravan of migrants that was coming to invade the southern border. Fears like that, unfounded fears, unsubstantiated fears, can all grow so much more. They can all fester so much more when people are lacking. And when we talk about economic equality, we're not talking about every single person being a millionaire. There are no societies like that, and there never has been. But certainly we can become a more equal society, not just a racially equal society, but a more economically equal society, a more educationally equal society, a more health equal society. And one of the great messages that I have tried to bring you through this program, and that I probably haven't talked about enough in the past several weeks, if not the past several months, because we've had so many wonderful guests on so many different topics, is that the solutions to the economic issues of this country not only can be solved, but they have been solved in our own past. We have never solved the problem of perceived racial inequality. Again, please try to remember this. And I don't know if this will provide you all a different way of thinking about race. Look, you can see me, if you've watched the program on Facebook Live, or if you've watched a recorded version of the program at YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram, you will see me. You know that I almost have no skin color whatsoever. I make a joke that I'm damn near translucent, but I kind of almost am. I'm Irish, white, Caucasian, fill in the blank term that is most, appropriate for you. The most color I probably have is my eyes and some freckles and maybe some age spots on my hands. But I don't know what it's like to grow up like Dr. Edwards. I don't know what it's like to grow up like Sergeant Mack, our guest from last week, our very, very powerful guest from last week. And you'll be hearing more from Sergeant Mack, I think, as we proceed. Or James Holly, or Professor Brock, or any of the guests of color that we have had on this program. I don't know what that's like. I just don't. And I never will. And I will never be able to fully understand it, no matter how much or how deeply they try to explain it, or whatever words they try to find. But what I do know, and what does bind us together, is I don't have any health insurance right now because I can't afford it. I have no health coverage whatsoever. If I have a heart attack behind this microphone right now, I'd probably fight and advocate to not be taken to a hospital because I can't afford it. The job that I am working has damaged my legs and feet to a point where they need medical attention. I can't afford it. So I brace them up, I douse them, I take painkillers, and I go to work. And whether you are of African descent, of Asian descent, of Near Eastern descent, hell, I don't care if you dropped on this planet from Venus or Mars. These economic inadequacies do bind us together. Dr. Edwards' success is not built on my failures. He is not trying to take anything from me, nor am I trying to take anything from him. Joy's successes, even though we are both white and Caucasian, as you saw, Joy is not trying to build her success on my failure. But we can all succeed together. I know Doctor mentioned that, boats don't all rise in the tide at the same level. He's absolutely correct. But goodness, isn't it time that we start trying to raise some of the boats? These are deep economic problems. Crime is not as serious when economic conditions and wealth inequality is more equal. Educational people go to college more. The educational status of the country rises when economics are better. It's just reversing Reaganism, ending it, destroying it, returning this country to the values, to the policies of the New Deal. The answers are right in front of us. They're right in front of us. The folks that stormed the Capitol, whether they were white collar, blue collar, black collar, or no collar, there are no excuses for them whatsoever. None, period. None. None. But the ones that are definitely from these lower economic classes that have been sucked in to this false narrative that the only reason you're poor is because of these folks of color or these immigrants or if that economic message can be overcome, and whether it's by messaging or reinstitution of the fairness doctrine, or just the simple fact that if we restored this economy, even if we never spoke to some of those folks, but yet restored the economy to a level where they could get a decent middle-class job, you would see some of these tensions fall away. Not go away, not be erased. And by no means whatsoever am I trying to reduce or make minor the serious divides that are there, but you will see it all ease itself and not be at a hair trigger, ease itself back to a point where we can speak to each other again if these economic disparities, these massive economic disparities can be lowered. If you're part of the top 1% in this country, you pay 15% on your capital gains. The inheritance tax has been lowered. The estate tax has been lowered. You can be paid in stock and sometimes not ever pay anything on that stock. Or when you trade it in at the most, pay 15% when the rest of us are paying 25, 28, 34% on our income taxes, but you only pay 15 on your investment income. 90% of the stocks are owned by 10% of the people, by the way. You pay a wealth tax. If you're a homeowner, you pay a wealth tax every month that you write your mortgage payment. If you don't have a mortgage, but you still own a home, every quarter or every year, you pay a wealth tax. It's called your property taxes. It taxes the largest depository of wealth that most people have in this country, which is their home. And you don't just pay it once. You don't just pay a sales tax when you buy the home. Some states even make you pay a tax when you sell it. New Jersey tries to hit you with an exit tax, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, and perhaps a topic for another day when we get someone from New Jersey. But you pay a wealth tax, folks. Did you know that you pay a wealth tax? And if you're a renter and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't pay that. Yeah, you do, because who do you think is paying the property taxes for the landlord? You are, through your rent. So if we can pay a wealth tax, why can't the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezoses of the world pay a wealth tax? During the 2020 presidential campaign, the primary campaign, before the nominees were finally decided upon, if you ever watched a town hall with Senator Elizabeth Warren, you will know that every single town hall that she did, someone would stand up and say, am I going to have to pay this wealth tax? Because she has championed the reinstitution of wealth tax in this country. By the way, we've had a wealth tax in this country. In fact, it was a standard tax in this country until it was eliminated in the Reagan era. And also, you might remember, if you're old enough, I remember this and I was still a kid. During the Carter administration, he instituted a one-time windfall profits tax. We give $600 billion plus in subsidies, free money, to the fossil fuel industry in the United States. $5.5 trillion globally. But yet companies like ExxonMobil net profits $50+ billion. And as George has just put up, voters support the New Deal, even Republicans. If you present them with these policy positions and you simply don't identify what political persuasion supports it, Republicans will support it. They still support the New Deal. Republicans support the New Deal. They support raising taxes on rich people. They support Medicare for all. A majority of people in this country support Medicare for all. But my point is, as Elizabeth Warren would, I drug myself off my own story, would enter the town hall, tell people about herself and say, so let's take questions. And in every single town hall, someone would stand up and say, am I going to have to pay this wealth tax? And she always handled it so beautifully. She is a master of the town hall format. Perhaps one of the best I've ever seen. She would say, I'm so glad you asked that. It's an important question. I've been getting a lot of pushback on this. Here's what I would like to ask. Does anyone here in the room make more or worth more than $50 million? And invariably, no one would raise their hand. No one ever. I never saw anyone raise their hand. She said, well, we'll have to pay it, but I'll explain it to you anyway. And as soon as she was done explaining it, and she could explain it in just about 2 to 3 minutes, people would stand and cheer. Just the thought of rebalancing the scales. Solving economic inequality in this country, returning to all the policies of the New Deal, all of them, will not ease racial tensions. It will not eliminate racial tensions, is what I should say. I should correct myself. They will not eliminate the 400 years of oppression, violence, racism, hatred toward folks of color, but it will ease them. It will ease them. And we will be able to talk to each other again. It will lower the temperature, so at least we can talk to each other again. You know, I posted an article on at that other side of information, our home Facebook page, our home Facebook world for all things the Kennedy effect, where billionaires in the United States have added $1 trillion, $1 trillion to their wealth since the pandemic, since March, while the rest of us have lost wealth. It has been extracted from us and sent to the top. When do we get it? When you talk to that crazy Uncle Larry at the holidays, or if you are lucky enough to go to your kids' ball games or sporting events, or when you see the other parents at the PTA, even if it is via Zoom, folks at the grocery store, at the gas pump, ask them, when are they going to get it? When do they get it? By the way, it filled up with gas yesterday here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have the largest, highest gas tax in the nation. Oil prices are at lows that we haven't seen since the 60s. I believe they're still hovering in the $55 a barrel range. I have not looked in ages, so I could be wrong about that. I probably should look it up right now. But yet gas was $2.71 a gallon. There's just simply no excuse for that. 6:32 Eastern on the Kennedy Effect for the 17th of January, 2021, the day before the Martin Luther King holiday, and what was supposed to be day one of 4 days of armed insurrection, seditionist, treasonous violence across the nation. You are listening to the Kennedy Effect on hot101.net. To our sisters and brothers, thank you for being here. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is incredibly simple. Go to the main website, hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can go to the Apple App Store and find the hot101.net app. Tap it, it opens, and you're listening. Piece of cake. If you have an Android device, go to the Google Play Store. You will find the app for hot101.net there. Same thing. Download it, tap on it, it opens, you're listening, piece of cake. Wherever you might be watching on Facebook, across the 70 different that we are sharing now. Stay there, enjoy, listen, watch. Great. We're proud, happy, humbled that you're here. But if you would like to come to our home Facebook page, that other side of information, you can enter the live chat, send us questions, comments. I did get a question in here from Mark, which I will be reading momentarily. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, and the Twitter is open. I have not received any live tweets. I have actually not received a single live tweet since we opened the Twitter account. At least during the program, I get tweets and so on, and I get attention, which is nice. It's awesome. I think we're all the way up to a whopping 20 followers now. But if you want to live tweet us, if you would like to send me a question, comment, if you'd like to yell, agree, disagree, whatever you want to, if you want to interact with the program, you can live tweet us. You can search for That Other Side of Information, and our Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. @ThatKennedyTalk. No spaces, even though I put spaces in there. @ThatKennedyTalk. And guess what, kids? Your worst nightmare has descended upon you. The thing that you fear the most. The phone line is open. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. 267-227-9189. The phone line is open. You can call the program. Speak to me. Ask a question. Agree, disagree, yell, shout. Well, maybe not yell. We don't like to yell too much here. No swearing, by the way. and you can interact with the program. I'm sure you've all called radio programs somewhere before, sports or whatever, but you can do it. You're strong folks. You can do this. Call the program. 267-227-9189. Let me get to Mark's question. You see, by the way, George has been putting up some fascinating charts. If you're watching the program on any of the video outlets live, you will see some of the charts that he's been putting up. They are fascinating and they are scary. And they should really, really cheese you off. They are things that you should be flat out pissed about because it's your money. It's being taken from you. We have crossed a Rubicon in this country where we are no longer just sending riches and wealth to the top 1%. They are extracting wealth from us. As I have mentioned on the program, I shall answer that. Caller, your first name and where you are calling from, please.
Mark, Whitehall, Pennsylvania.
Mark, welcome to the program. What is on your mind? Share with us. Question, comment, have a go.
Well, I just want to pop in there. Let's see. It sounds like a pretty, it was an intense, excuse the qualifier. It was a very intense, before it was a very intense conversation you were having with the lady and the gentleman there.
With Dr. Edwards and Joy.
Edwards. Yeah, so let's see. I just thought I'd pop in here and, it's after all, it is a day before MLK holiday tomorrow. I understand. I think his birthday was on Saturday.
I think his actual real birthday was, yes, either Friday or Saturday. The observed national holiday, of course, coming tomorrow. Sure.
And, I mentioned before about the, when I was going to Kutztown, I noticed, I was kind of a little perturbed that the presidents didn't have, excuse me, let me go over here because I'm starting to hear my own voice and it's getting.
You need to turn that. You need to turn all of that down and just listen to me on the phone, please.
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to get yourself confused with the delay. It's very confusing.
Okay. I got you.
Just turn off all of that and you and I talk on the phone.
Sure. Yeah. So anyway, so like I say, when I was going to Kutztown back in '91, I said, geez, the presidents, they had consonants at the end of their name. And Kennedy was the only one with the Y, and Pierce and Fillmore had the E's, but it wasn't all the same. So then it got me to think, geez, there are no Kowalskis or Allegranzis out there. So, and then I was taking this course with Samuel Westmoreland. He's a professor. I just got done talking the YouTube videos on my Facebook timeline, and I mentioned it to him. And I said, geez, I said, thanks for that. You know what I did? And he was like, what'd you do? So anyway, but it's not proven. But I did spend a lot of money, between at least $2,000 and $5,000 back in '04. I mailed out these notebooks. You might know the whole story. You probably went over it. I'm not really sure if you did. But so then President Bush did get the first copy. It was called Simple Observations. And so the whole purpose of the book was to get a different kind of president elected, so had to do with the Allegranzi thing. But then because of the class with Samuel Westmoreland, he taught about racial and ethnic minorities, so I'm losing my breath here because it's kind of gets me a little excited to talk about. But so to make a long story short, I mailed out, like I say, 17, was it 18? I mailed out 18 of these notebooks. I have the 19th. It's the master copy went to George Bush, like I said. But the purpose was, to elect a different kind of president, and it all had to do with the institutional discrimination, which didn't affect the executive branch. That was the last bastion to be broken. Beside the other two branches, with the legislative and the legislative and the judicial already had dark-skinned qualified people. So that was the last one to be broken. So, and then long behold, I'm sitting here in the basement with my mother and father watching my father just got back from the nursing home. He was in there 8 months. He was really messed up. And let me get a drink of water here. So anyway, I'm sitting at the top of the steps here. I had to come up and get away from my voice because I don't think I'd make it and probably have a heart attack like you, But then that's two casualties of war here.
Going to get us all eventually. Where are we going? Where are we going with this, Mark? Tell me where we're going here.
Yeah. So anyway, the question is intergenerational poverty and transgenerational poverty. So, naturally, the questions, it's a general question. There's a lot to put in there.
It's designed in the system, isn't it? I mean,
well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, so you got all these people, naturally have the kings and queens, and as Aerosmith used to have that one song, Kings and Queens. But then you have the people, that are the workers, the worker ants and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you want all these people to have, basic rights and things like healthcare and stuff like that. So, but it is a struggle. It's a back and forth struggle, and who controls the levers of power, stuff like that. So, but anyway.
So, is it do you agree with me then? And you certainly don't have to. That if this nation committed itself to reinstituting, rebuilding the policies of the New Deal,
right,
and not ended, I don't think you can ever end anything like this in a nation of 340 million people, but began to chip away and rebalance the scales of economic justice and economic inequality, massive economic inequality. Remember, the three richest people in the country hold as much wealth as the bottom 170 million people.
Right.
And the richest 400 people on the planet, by the way, have as much wealth as the bottom 3.7 billion.
Right.
People.
Yeah, I saw that.
There are only about 2,400, I want to say. If the folks are watching on Facebook, you're watching me struggle, you're watching me tap my own head to try to think of the numbers.
Did a really great job.
But the 2,400, I think there's 2,400 billionaires on the planet. There are 660 something billionaires here in the United States. We've created 3 new billionaires just since March. And we had no billionaires in this country coming out of the New Deal. None. We had very, very rich people. We had very large corporations. Some of the world's largest corporations were created and grown out of the New Deal. So, Mark, would you agree, after all of those facts and so on, you've been kind enough to call and share some time with us, but I want to open up the line, and just in case anyone else does, we can only take one call at a time. Is it your general belief, in your life experience as a man that lived in this country before Reagan dismantled and destroyed the New Deal, that if we just return to those policies, that we can see a rebalancing of the economic scales and also ease back, not solve, but ease back on these creative racial tensions that we see in this country?
I have to say yes. I mean, my experience was, hey, you need at least $1 million to start a family. I mean, I was terribly, I didn't even, when I used to date, I was afraid of the ladies back, only because maybe that was part of the reason, but I was a little backwards. But, one of my biggest things was, hey, watch it. As soon as you cross that threshold, there's no turning back, and then you're in it, you're married, you have a child. I mean, for me, I wouldn't have done it unless I was more
financially secure.
And that goes back to the intergenerational thing. I mean, my family was used to the struggling, just like probably, except for the people that were born into it, of course. But I mean, that's a big time struggle. I mean, I would say definitely yes, only because, hey, I'm a bachelor, no children, so I would say definitely yes. I mean, I'm the prime example right here, man. And I'll be 60 years old in May.
Mm-hmm.
So I would
But you
say
remember,
yes because,
but even at 60, which is not old, really in this country anymore. 60 is not what 60 used to be 100 years ago, but or 200 or 300 years ago. But you're old enough to remember. I'm 50. I'll be 52 in June.
Okay.
I am still old enough, however. I only feel like I'm 102, but I'll be 52. And I probably look like I'm 102, but I only feel like I'm 102, but I'm actually chronologically I'll be 52 in June. But I remember a country before Reagan, and no, it was not perfect. I don't think any country ever is. Again, it's right in the Declaration and the Constitution to form a more perfect union, which presupposes the fact that it is not and will not ever be perfect. So you remember, when you have conversations probably with family and friends, because that crazy Uncle Larry at the other table at Thanksgiving, because we all have one. You remember a nation before Reaganism. You remember a nation before Reagan came into office and said, "We're going to why are you running for president? Because I want to destroy the New Deal." It is the New Deal. It was the great equalizer. It made the government the employer of last resort. It built schools and roads and hospitals and dams and electric systems, power systems, water systems. The answers are right there, Mark. We can do this again. Mm-hmm. You pay property taxes on your home if you're a homeowner. You pay property taxes. Why can't wealthy people pay taxes? People forget, by the way, although it is relatively recent history, that even during the Nixon administration, even all the time that Richard Nixon was president, as crooked as he was, the top marginal tax rate during the Nixon administration was still 74%. Mm-hmm. So in today's dollars, if you earned your income, your actual take-home pay, a check, not stocks, not any of that, your actual paycheck, in today's dollars, 2021 dollars, if you earned more than $3 to $4 million, that next dollar, not for your entire income, but for that next dollar beyond that, for your 4 millionth and first dollar, was taxed at 74%. Mm-hmm. We've done this before, folks. Mark knows this.
That's not bad. I mean, are you kidding? That sounds good to me.
But we've done this. But you remember this too, Mark, do you not? I mean, you're old enough. You remember this. We've done this. This is not new. These ideas have not fallen down from Mars. They didn't spring up out of the ground. Mm-hmm. We've done this. We can do it again.
I agree. No, I agree. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, there are a lot of people that talk about this. Like I said, even the Eisenhower years, that's unbelievable. But
remember, it was Eisenhower.
There's just so much power in the levers of Congress. I mean, like I say, no wonder this happened. I mean, I'm not condoning the actions on January 6th, but I mean, these people were really, and this is crazy. This is like, if you read Chris Hedges and stuff like that, it really, people should be more than alarmed. They should be more engaged. And then even the people that aren't engaged to be a little, just bump them up a lever to try to influence, to get a little more involved, because, like I said, there's a lot of people there. There was another article written where Gary Olson showed it about this is not one incident. This is I hate to mention Chris Hedges because he's very you know,
He's a bit controversial, but like all of us, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. We make a good point every now and then, but he's
Right.
he's a bit controversial, but he's a good read.
Yeah.
He's extremely honest. Yeah, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't agree with everything that he writes either, but he also speaks truth to power. He makes some good points. Mark, I want to open up the phone line just on the wild off chance anyone else should call, but thank you very much for taking time out of your Sunday evening to call us. Please.
I definitely need more experience with communications. It would help me. But,
no worries.
This is good enough. I'm kind of like chilling out now with my cats and stuff like that.
Good
I'm not
stuff.
complaining. It's just I could have had a bigger family, more offspring, to pass it on, like, to be like another, Trump and pass it on. But unfortunately, the line ends with me. So, but no biggie.
Listen,
okay, take care.
Keep listening, and we thank you for being part of the program.
Okay, man. Be good.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
How about that, folks? It's easy. It's that simple to call the program. 267-227-9189. And there's another. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's too excited now. Caller, you're on the air. Your first name only, please, and where you are calling from.
Hey, this is Charles, and I'm calling from up here in the center of the state in Winfield.
Charles, welcome to the program.
Yeah,
what is on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things you've been teaching people about government and civics, and I've been on my tablet over here having a debate with a fellow friend of mine over.
Am I going to get smacked down? Am I going to get smacked down and corrected? Why do I feel like I'm going to get smacked?
No.
Am I going to get knocked about air?
No, he's coming up with the fact that basically, hey, Mr. Trump didn't say anything. He gave a rousing speech. The crowd got boisterous. And,
Let me stop you right there. The crowd was armed. Everyone knew it. They had no permit to march. The permit was for a gathering exactly where they were and nowhere else.
And here's the thing.
He said,
I agree with you.
He said, we will march to the Capitol and I will be with you. And as we continue on this program from week to week to try to point out to our fellow human beings on the other side of the aisle just how much they've been lied to over the past 40 to 50 years. Was Mr. Trump in that march? Did he march with them? He ran off the stage. Well, he doesn't run anywhere. It would be close to a perpetual motion machine. He gets off the stage, climbs back into the presidential limousine, referred to as the Beast, and goes back to the White House. He said clearly, we will march to the Capitol.
Let me join you. I agree with what you're saying. I do not disagree in anything like that. What my friend was saying, and I disagree with him, and I thought I'd try and help some people understand this. I was raised with an old saying by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, which said, you can't yell fire in a theater and claim that's a matter of freedom of speech.
Correct.
And he's saying, well, he didn't say. I said, no. If you look at another case in 1969, they turned around and said that the speech that the individual gave didn't say like he said, let's get down there and break in, but it led to an imminent lawless action. This was Brandenburg versus Ohio, a protest on a college campus. An imminent lawless action, and even the Supreme Court put, e.g., example, a riot. And, when people say, well, you're curtailing his freedom of speech. No. If you take those words and you put it together, if you want to say hey, he never said go down and break in. But you put all what he said together, you have an indication of an imminent lawless action. My wife was telling me about a woman who claims that she kind of got sucked in, or, but she hopes that Mr. Trump will pardon them because, well, he told us to. There they went. They went ahead and took it. And, you can act on something, or you can't do what he does, climb back into the White House. I found that unique. I'm going to be with you. Yeah, where were you? And simply say.
Does that actually? Do you know what would have happened to those folks if they had tried to scale the White House fence?
Oh, a long time ago, we were down, my family and I, when Clinton was in office, and I saw Marine One fly and land. So we ran down, and we were across the street, and this woman goes walking by, the businesswoman, and this policeman, White House or Social Security, said, excuse me, ma'am, you can't come here. And she keeps walking. He says, ma'am, you can't walk down this way. And she must have said something, and they picked her up and put her in a van. And I said, this other officer said, is she under arrest? He goes, well, that depends if her attitude changes or not. But I mean, it amazes me when people say it's a matter of freedom of speech. But it depends what action comes from it. It's not a matter of, and the Supreme Court even said that the craziest case they had was in Hess 73, where a guy said at a college rally, we're going to take this road back and we're going to keep it. And they said, well, he wasn't causing imminent lawless action. His was referring to an action in an indefinite future time. When the heck is that?
Violence is not speech. This Supreme Court, well, not this current iteration of the Supreme Court, but a conservative, corporate, dare I say, fascist Supreme Court, have made money speech. But even this iteration of the Supreme Court, even as wildly right-wing as it is, corporate, paid corporate, have never allowed the definition of speech to include violence. And by the way, there are few, if any, opponents to mass demonstration, right to petition your government, which is part of the First Amendment that no one ever seems to quote, and general free speech, by the way, than the right wing. Well, they want to suppress all of that. We don't want to hear from you. We just want to wheel you out of the closet like Christmas decorations every 2 to 4 years when we need a vote, and then wheel you back in.
Well, to tell you truthfully, I agree with your speaker earlier on when it said you had the Black Lives Matter. There are troops in mass.
If that was a Black Lives Matter protest, those folks would have been shot dead on the steps. The steps would have been drenched in blood. And by the way, that's why I asked you the question I did a minute or two ago. If those folks had tried to scale the White House fence, they would have been shot dead. It wouldn't have mattered whether they were white, a person of color, or whether they dropped in here from Mars. They would have been shot dead.
That's an indication, my God, when they gassed him and pushed him out of the way so he could walk over and hold a Bible
upside down. Yes,
for a photo op. And this was a peaceful group that had, from what I had heard, people who were like, youth ministers or ministers. It's not a violent group. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I sat there watching the whole thing on the 6th. I thought, yeah, if this was a group of people of color, they would have been shot before they even got to the barrier. The national, the police and all that would have pulled right in as they were coming down the street. But for him and anyone to stand there and say, well, he didn't tell them to go and break into the I said to my wife today, I said, what's so great about having Biden in office, I said, what? You don't have to wake up in the morning and the first thing out of your lips is, what the hell did that guy say last night?
What did he do now? No, you're right. Now you're right. You're right. And it's one of the things that Trump actually does rather masterfully.
Oh.
He never comes out and says, never comes straight out and says, go beat those people up. Well, he did actually a couple of times during some of his Nuremberg style rallies before he was elected president. You know, we beat protesters like that, and that guy should be thrown out in the cold, take his coat, all that fun stuff. But he didn't get up on that stage and say, go storm the Capitol.
Right.
But you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to know what he meant when he said, we will march to the Capitol and support our brave men and women of Congress and not support the other ones.
Well, I
what
guess
on earth do you think he was talking about?
Is it really logical? I mean, my wife and I were with at the march the day after Trump was sworn in, Women's March.
Mm-hmm.
Very well done. And I mean, there were, I personally think, a lot more people there than were there on the 6th. And when they were marching down Pennsylvania Avenue, heading for the White House, and they got to a section that was chain linked off because you could see the reviewing stand, and people started pulling and yelling and not trying to get the gate. I was with the group up until that point, and I moved out. I said to my family, let's get out of here. I said, why? I said, this isn't what we came for. Stand there, chant your sayings, whatever you want. You know, that's fine. That's wonderful. But, you know, what they were about to do was to break in. And you can say the White House is our house and all this, but I mean, you know, stand outside Congress, chant until the damn voting is done. But breaking in definitely crosses the line. You know, it's not an accident. You can't say, I was caught up in the group. I agree with a lot of people, Jeff, and what you said. It just boggles my mind, you know. Like the next time you're at a red light and you sitting there in your car, speed right on through.
Yeah, you know, it is funny too when you put it in those terms. It's almost like the mask debate.
Mm-hmm.
Almost. It's not a clean analogy, and I'm not going to tell you folks that it is. I'm not wearing this mask. It's an infringement on my freedom. When you get in your car, do you put a seatbelt on? Well, of course I do. Why? Because if I'm in an accident, it could save my life. So could the mask. But you don't think the seatbelt is an infringement on your constitutional rights. So really, you are seeking to turn every single thing into some sort of political statement. And isn't it? I don't try to turn everything in my life into a Shakespearean statement because my knowledge, my depth of knowledge and experience with Shakespeare is profoundly limited. So not everything is a political statement. Sometimes it's just bloody common sense. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, Charles, before I let you go and open up the phone line again. Mm-hmm. I do not know how old you are, and it is none of my business. My guess is, and I'm purely extrapolating this from your voice, that you remember a country before 1980. You remember a nation before Reagan and Reaganism. You remember a nation that was steeped and still operating to a very large extent under New Deal type policies. Isn't that really the answer? Isn't that really the answer to all this?
The answer is what I taught in my civics classes. Yes, you have rights. No argument about it. But, and this is what everybody else forgets, you have responsibilities. That's the contract. That's the Constitution. If not, you got anarchy. Everybody does whatever they want to do. You know? I have a responsibility towards my fellow human being to wear that mask.
I'm trying to ask you from an economic standpoint, if I might, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
you remember a nation with the New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the answer?
It is. You know what? And I could never understand that. Under Clinton, he brought out what he called workfare. And he even said when it came out, he says, this is an idea that's not new. It's something we're using here from the Depressionary area. He says, you know, everyone's yelling about all the feather bedding on welfare. Well, train people. We'll put them to work. And they'll receive his check. And people went nuts. And I was thinking, you know, that's not only a New Deal idea, but it's good common sense. Most of those things in a New Deal were good common sense in trying to do what government does for the country. There was a problem. Nobody was working. They were starving. They put kids together and they put them in the CCC. My father was in it. Got money home to the family. Got the youth off the street. I guess they wouldn't have been criminal. I don't get it. So yeah, it's an economic thing. They're most of those people I bet are unemployed or old farts like me, retired, and their Social Security is going to run out.
Well, I don't expect it to be there for me, but that's a whole different topic for a different day. Charles, thank you for calling the program. Thank you for taking some time out of your Sunday evening to be part of us. Please continue to listen to the program, share it with friends and family, and help grow this family.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. About that, folks, 2 calls. Wow. Like a talk show. This is craziness. It is, folks, when you listen to, if you're younger, if you were very, very young in 1980, 81, really, January 20th of 81, when the Reagan era began in earnest and when Reagan took power, I don't want to say seized power because it was clearly elected very cleanly and legally. But when the Reagan era took hold, if you were very, very young when that happened, or born since 1980, and you have never known a nation other than in the Reagan era, and you might be listening, watching, thinking, what is all this New Deal? What are we talking about here? I'm not going to be able to explain to you all of the New Deal in one evening. But here's what I would tell you in a relatively, to be honest, in a relatively sarcastic way, which is not always the best way. We had a country before 1980. We had a country before 1980, period. And it worked. It was not perfect, not by any means. There were still deep racial divides. There were still poor people. There were still massively rich people. And again, some of the largest global corporations were born in this country in the years following the New Deal. But the economic equality and groundwork laid by the New Deal led to this United States being the largest industrial power on earth, the most socially mobile, meaning if you were born poor, you had a better chance in the United States than any place on earth to move up economically. We had a vast university system. We were the world leader in scientific research, medical research. We were the largest economy on earth. We were the richest nation on earth. We had the largest middle class. In total numbers, not just per capita and not just from an economic standpoint. And it's all gone. You may still hear folks say, we can't have this. Even Senator Sanders says it. We're the richest nation on earth. We can't have this. I don't believe that we are. I think it's become a statement of reflex. The largest economy on the earth is China. They have the largest middle class on earth, not just in total numbers, because obviously when you have over 1 billion people in your country, it's pretty easy to be the largest anything. But as a percentage, what that middle class earns, how it lives, its life expectancy, everything about it. Everything, in nearly everything that this nation was economically, has been transferred to China. And it was done purposefully. And it was done to bankrupt and destroy the middle class, because a handful of wealthy white folks feared that they were losing political power. And excuse me, I don't know where that cough came from. Why don't we take a quick little sip? That's really great radio when I'm trying to keep myself from coughing. Because a handful of wealthy people didn't want to lose political power. And the one thing that you have to truly, I don't want to say congratulate, it's really not the word I'm looking for. You have to credit Reaganomics, because it worked. It worked fabulously. The middle class is now less than 50% of the population of this country. If you had asked me that, if you had told me, we learned about this week, that roughly 47% of the population is still considered to be middle class, I would have told you it was probably less than that. So I'm surprised that it is not less. But it is less than 50% for the first time in decades. Decades. And it's all being done intentionally, because heaven forbid the people of the middle class and the lower classes would have any sort of political power. And what we are seeing in the movements in operations by people like Stacey Abrams is, despite having that economic future, that economic present, any economic benefit whatsoever stripped from you, that you still need to vote, that it is still important to vote, and that vote, no matter how poor you are, cannot, or at least should not, be taken from you. And again, we can do a whole program on voting. I should probably have Kevin Skoglund back on the program. He was one of our very first guests, actually, to talk about voting and what we saw, to look back on 2020 and what we saw in voting. But we had a country before the New Deal, folks. We had one. And it worked. No, it was not perfect, but it worked. Large middle class, enormous, largest industrial base, richest nation in the history of the planet. And we fundamentally, purposefully took it apart just so a handful of rich people could stay rich. And look what it has brought us. So wherever you are watching on Facebook, we thank you very much for being there. You can come to our home Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, where you can join the chat. One of our callers is actually now still in the chat, which is awesome. We deeply appreciate that. We appreciate it very, very much. You can live tweet the program. @That Kennedy Talk is our Twitter handle. @That Kennedy Talk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. And something I have not talked about quite enough past few weeks. The sign is still behind me if you're watching. If you have a business, a service, a product, anything that you want to advertise on this program and literally reach a global audience. I'm not just saying that. It is the truth. Hot 101 has a global audience, and we are proud, very, very proud and humbled to be part of the hot101.net family. It is a very, very big, it's a big thing for me. I appreciate it very, very much. It means a lot. But if you have a product or a business, a service, something that you want to advertise, this is the place to do it. We want you to do it here on the Kennedy Effect. We will read your ad. We'll help you write it. We'll help you construct it. And then we will read it live on the air. And you can reach a global audience. And one of the great things about it is that, you know, unlike regular terrestrial radio, your ad will live on. It will stay on the Facebook page. It'll stay on the YouTube channel. It doesn't just get read and thrown in the garbage. Your ad continues to perpetuate. So we hope that you will consider joining the Kennedy Effect family and advertising with us. If you want to discuss the possibility of advertising with us, please email us at the same email address I give to any listener out there, any viewer out there. The email address for all things The Kennedy Effect, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. The phone line is open. Our one singular solitary phone line is open. 267-227-9189. 227-9189. Especially any of you who may be listening at any of the state capitals across the United States, it would be interesting to hear if any if any insurrection has kicked off in your city. Again, these programs, I almost said, no, we are on a program. You're running a program, dummy. These insurrectionists and these events, can't think of anything better than events, were scheduled to kick off today. Why today on the 17th? Is it a Sunday thing? Is it what? No. The 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. And because so many of the insurrectionists and seditionists involved in this insurrection, this coup attempt, a nationwide coup attempt, are Q and QAnon followers, supporters, what the name for it is, cultists, perhaps. They were supposed to start these initiatives today and run through the inauguration. So if you live anywhere, if you live in any of the state capitals across the country, we would absolutely love to hear from you. I was able to watch, was watching MSNBC earlier today and flipping with CNN a bit, especially to try to figure out what was going on in Harrisburg. As Joy told us, Harrisburg is quiet. There are a lot of National Guard troops on the street. There's a barrier around the Capitol. And I hope it stays that way. I hope it stays that way. And I think something that Dr. Edwards mentioned earlier in the program when he was with us, when he was kind enough to be with us, many of these, a good number, I should say, let me backtrack a little bit. A good number of the protesters are quote unquote white collar folks. They are doctors, lawyers, managers, supervisors, and they're not protesting for the economic justice, obviously, part of it. I wonder sometimes if they're even protesting for the Trump part of it, but they're all Q people. And that's what brought them out, was the Q part of things. You had folks in that crowd who are dirt poor. They have had everything taken from them economically. And you have a man like Trump tell them, I'll give it all back to you. He, of course, has done none of that. The country has actually lost jobs during this administration, and not just because of the pandemic. The United States has lost more jobs to overseas than during any other 4-year administration. And that fact cannot be tied to the pandemic, because this is a global pandemic. So even though economic activity may have slowed here due to the pandemic, it's slowed everywhere. But yet this Trump regime, ending on Wednesday, and not a damn minute too soon, lost more jobs to China than any 4-year administration in history. So there's that. Be proud of that. What a list of accomplishment. What a list of accomplishment. And I do, as I mentioned to the caller before, you do have to wonder when that crazy Uncle Larry at Thanksgiving and Christmas and so on, when do folks like that get it? When do they get it? How many times can they be lied to? Can they be snowed? Can they be made fools of? And still follow? If you're a Republican running for office, this is something actually Senator Sanders says a lot. If you're a Republican running for office, you cannot stand in front of people and say, let's picture, shall we say, a candidate's debate. If you're a Republican running for office of any, really doesn't work so much on a local level, although here in Lower Saucon Township, we have our own fascists here. And they're controlling our township council, actually. If you're running for the United States House, United States Senate, a governorship, where your policies are really affecting a good number of people, you can't stand in front of a group of people and tell them that no Republican running for office can stand in front of a group of people and tell them the truth of their economic policies, period, and actually get elected to anything. What candidate would you vote for that stood in front of you and said, I don't want to just cut Social Security, I want to end it. We want to end Medicare, end Medicaid. We'd like to end public schooling and make it on a fully 100% profit basis, that you either can afford it or you can't. And if you can't pay for it, then you don't get it. You can't stand in front of folks and say, we want to eliminate the following departments in government. We would like to eliminate the Department of Environmental Protection, the Labor Department, I'm forgetting now. I used to have a whole list of them in my head. I don't know why I'm blanking out on. We wanted to eliminate the Department of Education, Department of Agriculture. You can't stand in front of people and tell them we want to eliminate all these things. We want to continue to give huge tax cuts to corporations, if not eliminate corporate tax cuts or corporate taxes, period. We want to continue to give huge tax cuts to the top 1%. We want to eliminate the capital gains tax, eliminate the inheritance tax, eliminate the estate tax. We want to end any public involvement whatsoever in healthcare. That means end the VA, end the Affordable Care Act, and any type of, government assistance in the healthcare realm whatsoever. This is the Republican platform. Now that less than 5% of the private sector are actually in unions, we need to end that too. That's not low enough. We need to get no one in a union. They want to end the minimum wage. Not just lower it, end it. This is the Republican platform. When I say they have no platform, that's kind of no platform because of how truly fascistic it is. And what would the result of all those things be? The dramatic reduction in the size of government, all the protections that any of us enjoy, food safety, water safety, traffic safety, product safety, monopolies, antitrust protections from monopolies. Anything that the government does to protect us on a daily basis would be gone. They couldn't stand in front of you and tell you that. You'd never vote for them. So what do they tell you? They tell you Democrats want to take your guns. They tell you that if those two men get married, it's going to be the end of civilization. God will hate you if you support it. They try to tell you that all Democrats want to not just allow the freedom of abortion, but that we would promote it. And they buy into, I was going to say that no Republican elected official believes this Q crap, but we know that two of them are in Congress. So yeah, they do. So would have been a pretty dumb statement. They lend tacit support, if not direct support, to these wild, ridiculous theories like Q to try to cobble together this constituency, this group of people that will continue to support them when in fact they would not support them under any other circumstances. And one of the things that I wish I had time to talk to Dr. Edwards about, he had to go, and that's awesome, and that's fine. He's going to be a very busy man in the next couple of days. And I'm guilty, by the way, of the same thing. I called him to come on specifically for Martin Luther King Day, and he gets a lot of those calls. So I guess I'm guilty along with the rest. But you have to cobble together this constituency of people who vote for you because there's just not enough billionaires. There's not enough millionaires. There's a reason why it's the 99% and the 1%. That's why voting in your own self-interest when you're part of the 99% is not your own self-interest. There's 99% of us. We are the 99%. If we all voted in our own self-interest, it would be the majority. They can't tell you what their actual economic platform is because you never vote for them. Ever. So what do they have to do? They cobble together this ridiculous constituency and group of people, from the racists to the anti-gay haters to the Q people. What's the other thing that they do? They suppress the vote. Republicans in this past cycle, like no other, tried to keep people from voting. And they specifically go after traditional, if not dyed-in-the-wool, rock-solid Democratic constituencies. People of color, young people, seniors. During all of his court cases, remember, Mr. Trump sued to have the votes overturned in traditionally black counties. Not the red areas of Georgia, but Atlanta. Not the red rural areas of Wisconsin, but Milwaukee. Not the upper peninsula of Michigan, just Detroit. Not all the deep red areas of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, just Philadelphia. Everybody else's votes, anyone who voted in the red area, you're good. We like your votes, but where all these millions of Democratic votes came from, nah, we got to get rid of those. That's where we are. That's where we are. When folks watched the events of 6 January and said, this is not our country, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. 7:30 Eastern Time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the humble Saucon Valley. This is the Kennedy Effect for 17 January. If you are off tomorrow, I am, shockingly. I will sleep and I will try to repair my feet and legs, and I'm going to go have a wonderful dinner after we're done here. If you do have a day off tomorrow, please try to remember what the day is for. And we hope you are safe. We hope you are healthy. You can live tweet us at That Kennedy Talk, at That Kennedy Talk, or search for That Other Side of Information on Twitter, and you will find us. We are up to a whopping, 20 followers now. Oh, God, it's too funny. Well, look, you don't get followers if you don't have an account, and we just started an account, I think, about a month ago. So, hey, you know what? We're not exactly adding followers at an alarming clip, but hey, we're here. It is a way that you can reach us. You can reach us when we are on the air, and you can always tweet at me at any time. I do check the Twitter on pretty much on a regular basis, on a daily basis, I would say. It is not the best way to get a hold of us, but it is a way that you can get a hold of us. That Other Side of Information on Twitter, search for that. Our handle is at That Kennedy Talk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com, and the live chat continues on Facebook. Our home Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, That Other Side of Information. You know, one of the great things about our home Facebook page is that it's there 24/7. You will see articles that I post and that other contributors and sharers post to the Facebook page. You can comment on those. I don't have to tell you how Facebook works, but you can comment on those, start a discussion, start a debate, and it happens quite a bit, and I enjoy it. And it is overwhelmingly respectful, not always, but overwhelmingly respectful. Comment on the news that we put up there, on the articles that we put up there. You can always do that. And that page is always there 24/7. And you don't have to just go to the page when we're on the air, although, of course, we always invite you to do that. But it's there 24/7. Go to that other side of information, see some of the news that we're putting up. And it's not just, by the way, political news, although that's a good part of it. There are economic articles there, scientific articles there, articles about nature. And I put a lot of photography there as well. The BBC and Guardian do a great job of things of this week and this day in pictures. And I will post a lot of those. If you are so inclined, we would deeply appreciate if you would give us a follow on Twitter at That Kennedy Talk, or That Other Side of Information. If you would like to become a member of the Facebook group, it is a public group, but yet we still take members like a private one. So I'm not exactly certain how that goes. It's a bit beyond my Facebook acumen, so to speak. I think it's about who can post and who can't and so on. But you can become a member of our Facebook group, That Other Side of Information. You can put in a request. We'll review it and get you in. And if you would give us a follow on Twitter, we would be thrilled. We really would be thrilled. I mean, when you have 20 followers, oh God, oh, you can't make it up. I mean, what is President Obama has, 80 million or something, or 120 million or something. It's something just fantastical. I would never expect to get to that, but would be nice if we were above 20 by now. Oh gosh. Anyway, so there's that. And for our friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for being there. We are growing the hot101.net talk family. It's going to be some great programming coming your way. I'm not going to give it away quite yet because it's not ready to hit the air. But as we get closer to the air dates of these new programs, we will have these hosts on and we will bring everything to you. And we're going to build, we're looking at building a whole kind of, I don't want to say splitting. I don't want to say splitting Hot 101 in half, but offering you a mix of things. The great music that you've always heard and come to know Hot 101 for, but we're also building a talk. Half of our programming is to keep you informed, to give you a place to vent, to engage you. The only let's not make it so that the only programs on radio are sports programs that actually get phone calls. And I love sports as much as the next guy. Rough tie. Good draw, probably a good draw at the end of the day for United today against Liverpool. If you are a fan of football, real football, the kind that you kick with your feet. A good draw for United today, probably, I would have to say. I wish they could have won it. They had a couple of chances, but a good draw. They're still top of the table, United, if you follow football. And if you don't, I will explain it and try to get you to follow it because it is that wonderful. Top of the Premier League right now is Manchester United, my club. I'm actually a stockholder in Manchester United. I own one whole share. I got my dividend check today for 9 cents. It probably cost them 50 times more to send the damn thing to me. And I should keep them. I usually just throw them out. I never cash them. I should probably just keep them for fun. But anyway, I have my stock certificate downstairs. I'll have to take a picture of it one of these days and share it with you folks on the air. But I'm a stockholder. I'm an actual stockholder in Manchester United, my club. And there, George has that. Well, that's a little squeezed, George. Turn your mic on. We gotta format that. We need to format that a little bit. It's a mess. But you should. I will happy. You could call the program, by the way, and talk about Manchester United, because I will talk to you about it for a long time. We will carry the program for, you want to get into a fight about Manchester United, or you want to agree with me and tell me that it's your club. I'm with you. And if you want to, if you even give a passing thought into following English football, that's the club for you. All things good and great at Manchester United. Glory, glory. We're going to try to do that's better. There's a picture of Old Trafford there behind. You'll be seeing that pop up soon. I'm watching the delay. There we go. That's Old Trafford, the home stadium for Manchester United, behind the crest for Manchester United. That's beautiful. I hope they don't sue us for copyright, because we don't. But then again, you can if you want. You can't get blood from a stone. So we have nothing. So you can sue us and you can't take anything. Oh, God. We're going to try to take you to 8 o'clock. And try to take you to 8 p.m. Here, and then I am off to yet another political phone call. No guests currently lined up for next week, but the program will return next week. I'm looking at, by the way, and we'll be back the week after that, on the 31st. That's the 24th and the 31st, and I'm probably going to take the week off of the Super Bowl, so that I know how many people watch the Super Bowl. And by the way, not as many people watch the Super Bowl as they do some other global events, despite what the NFL might try to sell you. I believe the last Super Bowl, about 150 million people watched it, which, believe me, is no small potatoes. That was the global audience, if I'm not mistaken. The global audience on a weekly basis for the Premier League, all 10 matches that take place in the Premier League, 20 teams, 10 matches, is half the planet, about 3.5 billion. The last World Cup final, I believe, had almost 4 billion people watching it. So when you try to get told that the Super Bowl is the largest sporting event on the planet, it's not even a wink. It's not even an eyelash. It's big for us in the United States, and that's awesome. It's great. And believe me, if the New York Giants were in it, I'd be glued to the TV like all the rest of you. But it is not, the world's largest sporting event. No, let's relax. Let's have a cup of tea and relax about that. So that said, I believe Super Bowl Sunday will probably be taking off. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. George sends me a reminder, going back to our discussion about the real Republican platform. And if any Republican running for office or member of the party hierarchy was to try to tell you about their real platform, how you would never, ever vote for them again. So what they do is they sneak things into legislation. What does he mean by that? Well, I bring you this fact. Now, we have talked about this before, and I'm the only one who made a 3-syllable word out of the word fact. I've brought this to you before, but I want to mention it again. Inside the Trump Republican Paul Ryan McConnell tax cut bill of 2017, which has added, that tax cut alone has added about $4 trillion to the national debt. Next time you hear Republicans cry about the debt, the Trump 4 years will have added about $7.8 trillion to the debt. So next time Republicans cry about debt, you could tell them exactly where to shove it, because they're full of it. That said, that tax cut was about $2 trillion. 87% of which the benefits went to the top 1% and corporations. The tax cut that you think you got in it was really just a restructuring of withholding tables. Whereas you could take home a few extra bucks a week. I believe the average American took home a whopping $4 extra a week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm doing that out of my head, so I could have that wrong. But if my memory is correct, you took home an extra $4 a week. And then owed more when it was time to do your taxes. My taxes are going to be an absolute nightmare. Stop buzzing, you microphone. Then, so what was I going to say then? So, but buried in that bill is the truth of the Republican platform, if you will. The truth of who Republicans are. Beginning January 1st, this immediate past January 1st, and you are now paying it now. If you make less than $75,000, you got a tax increase. I got a tax increase. I have no health insurance. I have zero health coverage. Zero. None. If I fall down the steps and break a leg, I will have to tell anybody that comes to try to find me, just leave me here because I can't afford to do anything about it. I got a tax increase. If you work 40 hours a week on the minimum wage in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is still $7.25, you make roughly $15,000 gross before taxes per year. I think I have that right. I am going to do some math about that right now, come to think of it. 725 times 40 hours is $290 times 50 weeks, $14,500. If you make less than $30,000, you got an even larger tax increase. Oh, but that's not enough. Folks under 75,000 and under 30,000 will be getting tax increases every single year for the next 9 years. That's what the Republican corporation is. Earlier this week, when President Biden announced his COVID plan, not just to increase vaccinations and, speed up testing and more proliferate testing, to be honest. Part of his plan, it's about $1.9 trillion. A large part of it is about $350 billion, if I'm not mistaken, in aid to state and local governments. It raises the minimum wage. There are economic parts of his plan, infrastructure. It is a whole and holistic response to COVID. I believe I posted an article about it on that other side of information. The initial reaction from so-called Republican they're definitely Republican so-called leaders, especially McConnell, we can't afford that. Adds too much money to the deficit. You just added $8 trillion in the last 2 years. And now you want to try, in the last 4 years, and now you want to try and bitch at us about deficits? Wrong. You cannot cut taxes and increase revenue. It is a mathematical impossibility. But what you can do is put money in the hands of the people that need it and the people that spend it. That's what gets an economy moving. And George mentions that these tax increases, having begun on January 1st, will then make it look like President Biden is responsible. Correct. And that's exactly how it was constructed, to make it look like he was responsible. He is not. Trump is responsible. Kevin McCarthy is responsible. Mitch McConnell is responsible. Steve Mnuchin is responsible. Paul Ryan is responsible. And I look forward to the time when someone tries to call the program and blame Democrats. Wrong. That's not how it works. And we will correct that. It's part of what we're here for. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. How very interesting, because I'm looking at my Google Voice here, and I missed a phone call at 6:40. How would I have done that? We took 2 phone calls. How did I miss a phone call? Oh, that's a shame. How did I do that? Well, whoever that caller was, I apologize to whomever that was. Somehow missed the call. Oh, maybe they called in the background while we had another caller on the air. The call software that we use is Google Voice. It's free. That's why we use it. And it only allows one phone call at a time. So that was probably part of the problem there. So whoever called us earlier and may have missed out, I apologize to you that you, if you didn't get on the air. I think you might have, looking at the call log. We don't actually have call screening software. We have been trying to find a free call screening software to use for the program. If anybody knows of one, we'd be happy to hear about it. But we don't. We just use Google Voice, and it allows you to call in and talk to us. And we wish that you would and that you do. And I'm also having microphone problems tonight. I don't know why. It's just one of those days here at the Kennedy Effect. We thank you so much for being here. George, turn a mic on for me, please. Sir? There you are.
Right.
So we got about 7 minutes left before we say goodbye, George. What else is on, what might possibly be on your, well, actually, let me just dip into a little behind the scenes here. You did search call screening software and it was all money, correct?
Well, it's usually free, but
Do we have to subscribe to it or something?
yeah, it's like it's a free trial. You can, try it out for a week, or try it out for a little bit, and then
Probably take us more than a week to figure out how to use it. And then it's going to be the end of the trial.
yes, it will be a trial by combat or a trial by fire.
Oh, God, well played. Well played. Touche. Well played, trial by combat. Yeah.
And yeah. Insert Star Trek, battle theme music here.
Well, we need to work on that. When we're all vaccinated and you're here
yes.
every week and you have multiple computers in front of you, we're going to have to get a bigger board too.
Yeah.
And not a bigger boat, but a bigger board. Anyone catch that one? Bueller, come on. We're going to need a bigger boat. Come on, gang. Stick with me. We're going to need a bigger board. And we'll have multiple computers in front of you at that point. That I'm sure the sound effects will start and the pictures and so on. There was something I asked you to come on for because I was going to ask you something specific, and now I have completely forgotten. We have been, George, could you please, because I think you did this. And I think I listened to you correctly, that you did this on your own, which I'm eternally grateful for, by the way. The Patreon is done, is it not?
No, it is not done. I'm still trying to hash out what we are going to be offering people. I mean, I have the page up. You can, I mean, you could see that there are levels, but there are no.
There's no goodies.
Yeah, there's no goodies. I'm still trying to figure out, and this is where we were supposed to have our production meeting, but that never happened.
Well, we're doing that right
now. What levels? What I mean, what people are going
what they're going to
to
get by being
get.
Patreon subscribers. First off,
Right.
folks, let me just tell you, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Patreon before. Big names in the industry have Patreon accounts. Tom Hartman has a Patreon account, and what he does is if you pay into the Patreon and become a Patreon subscriber, as he refers to it, I believe that's how most people refer to it, you get added benefits. You get access to Mr. Hartman. You get special videos and stuff that he does that do not go out on the regular air and do not go into his YouTube and things like that. And so what George and I need to do, and I could have swore we did this. We need to work out what those goodies are going to be. But we have a Patreon account. And I cannot assure you enough. I cannot assuage your fears enough, or your trepidations, if you have any, that any money that you give and or put into the Patreon and become a Patreon subscriber will be turned around back into the program. This is not for me or George or April to take, global excursions or, be a space tourist or fill in the blank. These are monies that we are trying to gather to turn back into the program, upgrade equipment, build a studio, and such. So give a look for us on patreon.com. Search for That Other Side of Information, George.
Yes.
And check it out. There will be goodies for you. Special access, private access to me, a little behind the scenes in the show, personal appearances, videos. We'll work it out. We're going to have a break coming up in a couple of weeks when we take off for Super Bowl, and I promise we'll get it all straightened out. I take full responsibility for not getting it straightened out up until now. And we still owe you a bingo card. World audience, we still owe you a bingo card. I take responsibility for that as well. I have not completed it. George is giving me homework that I'm not doing well with. So that we will complete as well. So we are at 7:58. So George, any last thoughts or anything that we want to put out into the ether before we say goodnight?
No, I believe you covered everything.
I covered the whole planet. I covered
the whole planet.
I covered literally every issue. I covered every issue. We solved every problem. Wonderful. So
and
really,
we had, and was it? And we had 2 callers. I couldn't believe that. It's amazing.
Were you as excited as I? Did you pull a muscle?
I was.
Yeah, I know. I almost pulled a muscle.
We had turn away callers. There you go. I mean,
I did miss a call. Yeah. How did I miss a call?
I can't see it from.
No, you don't get a busy signal. That's part of the problem. Google Voice does not give you a busy signal. It doesn't tell you when somebody else is trying to call in. You're just immediately blocked from it. I don't hear it ring. I don't hear anything like that. But I would say this, folks, that we had two whole callers. Whoa. That's all we're asking for. Well, no. Let me take that back. I didn't say that right. Not just 2. We're not only asking for 2. But you heard folks call tonight, and all we had was a conversation. Mark did the usual thing that some radio callers do, and he forgot to turn the sound down and got a little goofed up by the delay, but that's okay. We're human beings. I probably should have explained that. I'll take the hit for that. You can call this program. You're not going to get attacked. You're not going to get your head bitten off. It's a conversation. You can call. You can disagree. You can agree. You can ask a question. When I throw that phone line open, pretty much anything can happen because I have no way of screening who's going to call or talk to them. When we talk about call screening software, would be the ability for when I'm on the air with a guest or in the middle of a rant or just losing it and giggling stupidly. George would be able to take the call and say, where are you calling from? What do you want to talk about? And, be able to weed out folks who might be trying to bomb us or something like that, or, trying to sneak into the program. But we don't have the ability to do that right now. This is kind of the thing that we're talking about with the Patreon to tie it all together, that this is kind of we're looking for a few additional funds for. And it's tight out there, folks. Look, I don't have any money either. I've said it a bunch of times tonight. I have no health insurance anymore. I had to decide between that and a mortgage. And there's no studio if there's no mortgage, because it's the second bedroom in my own home where the studio is going to be. So please give us a look out at Patreon. I know the goodies aren't there yet, but we will, trust me, you will get something that a regular, I can't think of a better word, that a listener to the program does not get. I will do personal appearances. I will do Zoom appearances into your group, your committee, your speeches, additional content, special content. We'll get it worked out, but you will get something for your donation, for your subscription. Please give us a subscribe on YouTube. The YouTube channel is up. I think there's a whopping 3 subscriptions there, but the views are strong. People watch without subscribing, but please feel free to give us a subscription. George, would you say a subscription on YouTube is kind of the closest thing to a like or a follow on Twitter? Aren't they kind of analogous? I mean, don't they kind of go together?
Yeah, they do kind of go together, because after I convert the show and put it to YouTube,
if you're a subscriber, you could automatically get told that had happened, correct?
Yeah, but I actually put the link into Twitter, and so some other platforms, right, as well.
So give us a subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe over there. I must be getting tired now. I'm starting to slur. All I drank was almond milk during the. Trust me, chocolate almond milk, and I'm slurring all over. Yeah, I know. I can't hold me almond milk. Give us a like and a subscribe over on YouTube. Then you will be alerted when new shows or new videos are posted. We appreciate that deeply. We truly do. Give us a like and a follow on Twitter as well. As I had mentioned, we're up to a whopping 20. I usually gain a follower during the program. Not this week. But you could, and I wish you would. Give us a follow on Twitter. And again, please come over to the home Facebook page, that other side of information, and become a member. We would not be here if you were not there. But you have to understand the massive disparity and disadvantage in progressive media. Every single one of you counts. We want to know that you are out there. We need to know that you are out there. We want to know that you're listening. We want to know that you are part of the broadcast, that if you have opinions, we want feedback. I continue to be fascinated at how reluctant people are to call, but okay, it is what it is. The eventual goal of this program, I don't think is a secret, because I think I've said it before, is we want to be a full-fledged, quote unquote, regular talk show. We want to do 5 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day, full of phone calls and guests and adverts and all of it. We want to be a full-fledged, proper, daily progressive talk program, and we need you for that. And I know this last 10 minutes probably sounded like a big commercial, and I apologize for that, but we do need you. I love doing this show. I'm so honored and happy that my dear friend for so many years, George, was willing to be a part of it and continues to want to be a part of it. I haven't driven him completely insane yet. His wife's about done with me, but I haven't driven George completely mental yet. And April and the three of us really, as the core of the program, we want this to be what we do for a living and what we do with and for you on a daily basis. And for that to happen, we need every single last one of you. We want to hear from you through the YouTube, through Instagram, through Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever other platforms we tend to that we will grow into, as we're looking for a television outlet currently right now as well. So just hang in there with us. We are here for you, but you are there for us as well. So check out patreon.com and search for that other side of information. We'll get the goodies up there. You will get something unique and exclusive for being a Patreon subscriber, and you have my absolute sincere word. The money is not going into my pocket. It is going to be turned back round into the program. To our friends at hot101.net, the better program that we do for you, better that we make the program for us, it'll be better for you as well. When you are out there listening live, we hope that if you want to see what you are listening to, you can go to YouTube and see it. You can go to Facebook and see it. Also, the Facebook page for 101.net, actually, the show is there as well. We want to hear from you also. It seems that the preponderance of interaction that we get is through Facebook, but hot101.net listeners, wherever you are listening to the audio of this program, and I mean anywhere on the planet, or in the car, smart speaker, phone, tablet, computer, however you consume the program, we want to hear from you. We want to know that you are out there. That's your homework coming up. So go to patreon.com, check it out. Search for That Other Side of Information. YouTube channel is also called That Other Side of Information. You can search for That Other Side of Information on Twitter and live tweet us during every program, but you can tweet at me all week. And if I see it, or if you DM me, you can actually direct message me. I will answer it. And of course, the Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. So for this week, that's it for us. I am off to a meeting and some dinner. So we thank you for being with us. Please have a wonderful day tomorrow if you are off. Please try to remember what the day is for. I know we say that about really all of our holidays. We say it about Memorial Day and Labor Day and the 4th of July and Christmas and so on, but Martin Luther King's celebration day is no different. Please remember what the day is for. Remember what Dr. King tried to teach us and tried to help this nation move along with. The fierce urgency of now. That's what President Obama that was always his favorite quote from Dr. King. And the fierce urgency of now could be no more fierce and no more urgent than it is now. If we don't heal, there's not a lot of good ways that this ends if we don't heal. So please read up on Dr. King tomorrow. Watch the documentaries that'll be on. Keep an eye on the news. Be informed. And finally, talk to each other. Don't yell. Let's not scream. It sounds contrite, quaint, almost reflexive now for a person like me on camera in the media to say, our nation's very divided. Well, it is very divided. And at the moment, I don't see a lot of good ways that this is going to end. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. We can fix what's wrong. We can heal what is wounded. Have conversations with each other. Check in on each other. Talk to one another. Not at, but with one another. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Be kind. Be gentle. Be the person. Treat people the way you want to be treated. One of the oldest biblical lines that there is. Do unto others. That is it for our program for this week. We will return next week, 5 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. Every single one of you, please take care of yourselves and each other. We will, for George Dare, for April Riddick, for my guests, Joy and Dr. Edwards, thank you for being with us. We will return next week. Please be here. We will be here next week. So you be here next week. We're nothing without you. And check out the whole world that is That Other Side of Information. The Twitter, Facebook, the YouTube, and the Patreon account. Thanks again for being here. Callers, you are awesome. My two big callers, thank you so much. You're awesome. See, everybody, it's really easy. You can do it too. And we'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves and each other until next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.